Chapter 375. The Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader looked on as Lin Fan walked into their treasure hiding hall. He panicked. Damn, what are you doing? If you have balls, then come back and fight. Even if you press me to the ground, you aren't allowed to enter. Old ancestor, quickly reply. He has already entered our treasure hiding hall. To the Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader, he was unable to accept everything that had happened. He didn't even dare to believe that he was being suppressed by a kid. Even his sect disciples didn't fight back and were all suppressed. He looked towards the ruins in the distance. He then looked towards the pig in terror. At first, he had thought that the other party was just an ordinary little pig. However, when the pig exploded with astonishing might, he knew that he had thought too little. The other party was not an ordinary pig. The old ancestor didn't move at all after being stepped on. The Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader cried out in his heart. What was going on? He thought that Cha Fu was the strongest, but who knew that it would be that young kid? Shortly after, he was slapped in the face. This little pig that didn't even have fur was actually so strong. The world had changed. Zhu Shun's cultivation was still there, but naturally, that leg didn't crush him to death. But the Ocean Tide Temple old ancestor was really cunning. With just one move, he knew that there was a huge gap between them. There was a huge gap between the two of them that he couldn't cross. If he got up and fought him head-on, with his strength, he would probably be beaten up badly. Moreover, there were so many disciples looking on. Was it really okay for him to be beaten up by these disciples? This was why acting dead was the best choice. There are many things here, but none of them are good enough. The house was filled with riches. However, all of these were just ordinary items. For powerful beings, they weren't of much use. However, for a powerful being like Lin Fan, they were still rather useful. His final goal hadn't changed, which was to wipe out the Alliance and then return to his life as a rich young master. Father left without a single cent, and Yu City was occupied by the Alliance, so the things inside were definitely gone. This was why he had to accumulate his own wealth to plan for the future. He couldn't just rely on strength to earn a living, so he had to spend money. He directly stored all the wealth in the room into his dimension. Under normal circumstances, there must be a secret hiding place. Lin Fan continued to search. This felt really good. Anyway, he wasn't in a rush, and he would find it eventually. If he really couldn't find it, then he would capture the Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader and ask him where all the good stuff went. Outside, seeing that Lin Fan still hadn't come out, the Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader was getting even more nervous. If it was an ordinary item that had been taken away, it would have been fine. However, if some important things were taken away, it would make people vomit blood. After a long time, a figure appeared. Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader opened his eyes wide. When he saw the smiling Lin Fan, his heart skipped a beat. He had been discovered. Had he been discovered? Lin Fan slowly walked back and stepped over the Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader's back. This was already the second time. This was too much, really too much. Not bad. Your sect's ability to hide things is pretty good. You wasted quite a bit of my time. Unfortunately, I found it. I will remember this place. After a period of time, I will return. Lin Fan looked at the Ocean Tide Temple Sect leader. He then looked at the disciples around. All of you open your eyes and look at me. Remember my face, and I hope that we have a chance to meet again. Arrogant. Even Zhu Shun felt that young Master Lin was a little arrogant. This kind of behavior was equivalent to extortion. No, perhaps extortion couldn't even be described as extortion. It should be open and above board. Moreover, it was in front of them, under their gazes and taking away all their things. All of them could only stare at him. Let's go. There is nothing worth staying here for. Lin Fan's words were really casual, and he didn't feel like he had done anything wrong at all. Also, the gazes of those disciples were really overbearing. Unwillingness, rage, helplessness, terror, etc. were all perfectly expressed and provided him with rage points. Su Furong and Jin Xiaobao were both shocked. This was too domineering. After doing such a thing, he actually left just like that. Terrifying, it was truly terrifying. It was extremely frightening. Senior brother, he is my idol, Jin Xiaobao said. Su Furong was really envious, but he definitely wouldn't admit that he really wanted such a life. Lin Fan brought Zhu Shun and the others and left. When Chafu left, he moved his lips towards the Ocean Tide Temple sect leader like he was telling him not to blame him and that it had nothing to do with him. Just don't hate him. After Lin Fan left Ocean Tide Temple, the invisible pressure disappeared. The domain that caused one's vision to turn gray also disappeared. Who is he? The Ocean Tide Temple sect leader felt the pressure on his body disappear. He got up in terror and was really unwilling to accept it. Shortly after, he thought about something. He ran towards the ruins right away. Old ancestor, he called out. He couldn't let anything happen to the old ancestor. Otherwise, Ocean Tide Temple would be finished. The old ancestor was a Tao Realm expert, and the only Tao Realm expert in Ocean Tide Temple. To be a mid-tier sect, one had to have a Tao Realm expert. Ocean Tide Temple could be said to be the weakest mid-tier sect. If the old ancestor was trampled to death, then Ocean Tide Temple would really be finished. Along with him calling out, he didn't hear any reply from the old ancestor. This caused his heart to turn cold. Was he really dead? Those disciples who were squashed stood on the spot and didn't move at all. They looked towards the ruins in the distance. The old ancestor was inside. The sect leader called out to the old ancestor, but he didn't reply. He had a bad feeling about this. Damn, as an Ocean Tide Temple disciple, I actually let others come to Ocean Tide Temple to humiliate us. I'm ashamed of myself. When the people around heard this, they all agreed with it. But shortly after, what did he mean by ashamed of himself? They didn't understand what he was saying, but it was tough for them to calm down. They were all victims, and to be bullied like that, how could they take it? The sect leader, who was in despair, was mentally prepared to see a corpse in the ruins, but who knew that the old ancestor would just sit there with his eyes closed like he was cultivating. The sect leader didn't understand what was going on. What was going on? Ooh, the old ancestor heaved a sigh of relief. I didn't expect that scene to give me some enlightenment. I can only choose to break through here. The sect leader looked at the old ancestor with his mouth agape. Enlightenment? Breakthrough? He blinked his eyes in disbelief. Old ancestor, how is that possible? The sect leader asked. Right, it was easy to understand that he was beaten up, but to say that he broke through here was a little fake. It felt like he was treating him like a fool. The old ancestor really wanted to smack this sect leader to death. What did he mean by that? He didn't have any knowledge at all, and he could still be the sect leader. It seemed like he was blind in the past, but he couldn't say that. He acted really calm. Nothing is impossible. The mysteries of the Tao realm aren't something you can understand. Unfortunately, I was in a rush to break through and didn't kill these people. The old ancestor said, everyone had the ability to lie through their teeth. It wasn't that the old ancestor didn't want to admit that he was weak, but the disciples were all looking. If he said that he was beaten up so badly that he didn't dare to make sound, then he would lose all his dignity. The sect leader didn't say anything. He felt like the old ancestor treated him like a fool. But to those disciples, they treated it as the truth. In their eyes, the old ancestor was a celestial being who possessed the ability to see through the heavens and earth. How could he lose? Now, there was a reason. It wasn't that the old ancestor didn't want to kill them, but that he comprehended something and broke through on the spot. How overbearing and shocking was that? Suddenly, the sect leader thought about the treasure hiding place and left in a panic. How would he dare to stay? Not long later, a heart-wrenching cry spread out from the distance. The sect leader nearly fainted. Bandits, they were just bandits. The originally dazzling room was now very empty. Even the secret passage had been discovered. Was this still human? The old ancestor acted like he was really calm and wasn't affected at all. But when he saw the situation inside, his eyelids jumped. A ferocious beast roared in the depths of his heart. What the F***CK was this even something a human would do? Old ancestor, they haven't gone far. Let's chase and snatch the item back. The sect leader roared. He really couldn't take such a blow. The old ancestor raised his hand and said, we can't chase them. They're Tao realm experts and can easily travel through space. They are probably 1,000 miles away now. The sect leader was really unwilling. Then, what should we do now? Let's go. Move the sect away from here and find a new place. The old ancestor said. He took his words to heart and said that he would come back to Ocean Tide Temple when he had time. Oh my God, didn't he think that those words were a little too much? If they came again, what could Ocean Tide Temple use to fight them? Would they use their heads to fight them? The sect leader found it weird and didn't expect the old ancestor to actually say that he wanted to move the sect. Now that they occupied the 3 cities and were the masters, if they left this place, they would be giving up on everything. That was just not worth it. I know that you have questions in your heart, but you must understand that the 3 cities have no value. Our Ocean Tide Temple has suffered heavy losses, and we can only find a new city to occupy. There is no need to say anymore, just move. The old ancestor didn't know why he was speaking so much nonsense to the sect leader. Maybe it was because he felt guilty, which was why he wanted to explain so much. But now, there was no need at all. He was the old ancestor, the person with the highest status in Ocean Tide Temple. So what if he was the sect leader? The old ancestor didn't need to explain to anyone. He just needed to do as he was told, and there was no need to ask anything else. Yes, the sect leader replied. The old ancestor was in deep thought. Who was that young man? Also, what kind of beast was that pig? It actually had such a terrifying aura. It was unstoppable. At that moment, in the old ancestor's words, the group of people who were 1,000 miles away had just reached the foot of the mountain. Chapter 376. At the foot of the mountain, Lin Fan was satisfied. His gains were decent. Young Master Lin, don't be so rash next time. If you meet an expert, the outcome will be catastrophic. Zhu Shan said. Ocean Tide Temple's peak strength was indeed a little weak, but that didn't mean that all sects were so weak. Some sects were sick in the head. They had peak strength, but didn't show it and acted like they were weak. Of course, there were few such sects, but there were definitely some. Lin Fan said, Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. When I saw their disciples, I was 100% sure that this sect is weak. Their disciples don't have any aura, and they randomly picked them. So, a sect that doesn't put in much effort to pick disciples isn't a big deal. Zhu Shan was speechless and didn't know what to say. How the F***ck could he tell? Zhu Shan really wanted to have a good chat with Master Lin. Master Lin, this is just too dangerous. Young Master Lin is a little fierce, and I can't handle it. Chafu had seen Lin Fan and Zhu Shan's strength, and they were really amazing. At the same time, he looked towards Nine Demon. This thing didn't look simple, and he didn't know how strong it was. Nine Demon noticed that Chafu was looking at him and gave out a smile that he thought was very human, but was actually really vicious. It was like he was asking what the silly old man was looking at. Chafu blinked and was thinking about something. What should he do next? Now that he followed Lin Fan around, he felt like he was walking towards the source of danger. Lin Fan was a little fierce, and normal people wouldn't be able to handle it. Even he was the same. Young Master Lin, where are we going next? Chafu asked. He was someone who wanted stability, and when in Rome, do as the Romans do. He brought his disciple away from Qinji Mountain because he didn't want to enter this whirlpool. Now that the whirlpool was beneath their feet, the chances of them walking out of it were really low. Let's take it step by step, and also ask about the situation outside. Lin Fan said. He didn't know what the Alliance's strategy was, but if he charged around recklessly, it would definitely cause quite a bit of trouble. Why had those evil top sects waited until now? Wasn't it all for the sake of occupying land and becoming kings? If the Alliance didn't allow them to do so, they would definitely start a war with the Alliance. With the strength of the top sects, when he thought about this, he wanted to scold them. These bastards wanted the imperial dynasty to be wiped out, and then no one would restrict them. What a bunch of dogs. He had already said that he would never let the top sects off. White Lotus St. Purity Mountain and Guasian Island were 2 top sects that he had to wipe out. It was just that with his current strength, he was definitely not a match for these 2 sections. But it didn't matter. He wasn't anxious at all. He still had a lot of time, and as long as his strength increased, he would teach these 2 sects a lesson. Chafu looked at young Master Lin and felt a little helpless. Moving without a goal was the most fatal. Su Chong-sun, you went around, but in the end, none of the top sects were willing to help. In the end, the defense line collapsed. Didn't you say that you have friends all over the world and everyone would give you face? How did this happen? Zhao family old ancestor was taken away by Su Chong-sun. The destruction of the imperial dynasty wasn't something the two of them could stop. The top sects of the world were all waiting for the imperial dynasty to be wiped out. Moreover, it didn't even need to attack, so why not? Su Chong-sun sighed. He felt really helpless after hearing what old ancestor Zhao said. That was the reality. He used to think that he had a lot of friends, but at this time, these so-called friends were simply unreliable. They were either nowhere to be seen, or they were in a difficult position. The sect's orders did not allow them to leave the mountain. He was really sorry. Brother Zhao, what's the point of saying all this now? Su Chong-sun shook his head and sighed. Although his personal strength was very strong, but compared to the general trend, the gap was too big. Old ancestor Zhao said, "It is indeed useless, but is good that the imperial dynasty is still here. One day it will make a comeback and return to its former glory." Su Chong-sun frowned. From old ancestor Zhao's words, he could hear that something was wrong. What do you mean? It's not that interesting. It's not the right time yet. I have to make more preparations. Old ancestor Zhao didn't want to say much more and said, "Look after your Su family. Don't think that just because the imperial dynasty isn't here, you have other thoughts. You know how your Su family rose up? You don't have to worry about that. Su family's children are much better than your Zhao family." Oh right, the imperial dynasty agreed to marry a princess to Lin Wani's son. You have to do this well. Lin Wani sacrificed everything for the imperial dynasty. Don't think that just because he isn't here, you can turn on him. Su Chong-sun said, "Lin Wani, I haven't found trouble with him. His son stole our purple gold dragon essence pill. Forget it, let's not talk about it." Old ancestor Zhao didn't want to talk about it anymore. Just thinking about it was really infuriating. Why did he steal the Zhao family's purple gold dragon essence pill? Why did he have to arrange a good wife for him? But Lin Wani was a person and would do what he said. The imperial dynasty was the same. Kiki, being robbed only means that your Zhao family descendant is weak. You can't blame anyone else, right? Is King Wudong really rebelling? If that is the case, then I have to personally kill him. Su Chong-sun asked. Old ancestor Zhao looked at Su Chong-sun. To think that you are the imperial dynasty grand teacher. Use your brain. You. Su Chong-sun wanted to scold him, but old ancestor Zhao left right away. He shook his head and thought about it for a moment before he understood the situation. To leave a bit of hope for the imperial dynasty. He really dared to gamble. I hope that nothing will change. The scary thing about humans is that they are good at changing. He was really loyal to the imperial dynasty. Just like old ancestor Zhao, he was willing to give up his life for the imperial dynasty. This was the belief of the older generation, and it was something that the younger generation couldn't understand. In a certain cave, a giant piece of fat moved. This fat was different from other people's fat. Looking closely, one could see that it was made up of bugs. Gulu gulu. A terrifying aura spread about in the cave. At that moment, the fat exploded and turned into many pieces of meat. But these pieces of meat seemed like they were alive as they moved on the ground. Behind this huge lump of fat was a pool of blood. The blood in the pool was so red that it was almost black. There were countless hair-like black lines embedded in the skin. Undying body, undying body. Monster Emperor hollered in rage. The aura around his body became more and more terrifying. The entire cave was shaking like it could collapse at any moment. But now, the pieces of fat moved and slowly merged with his body. I want to get rid of this fat. Monster Emperor lowered his head and decided to remove the fat. But right as he was prepared to do so, he thought back to the conversation in the past. He kept silent for a long while. Maybe this is not bad. Monster Emperor seemed to have understood. He hollered and the area shook. Lightning streaked across the sky and formed a net. The phenomenons were shocking, and it was obvious that something huge was about to happen. A long while later, the phenomenons disappeared and the area slowly calmed down. Dao Realm Stage 6 Undying Body, I finally succeeded. Monster Emperor thought about how tough it was to break through to this realm. He used the Sword Palace head to get rid of the hidden injuries in his body. He worked with the Alliance to get what he needed and also swallowed the corpses of numerous experts. He finally succeeded perfectly. Ta. Congratulations, Monster Emperor, for improving. I am the Alliance Envoy and represent the Alliance headquarters to discuss a trade with Monster Emperor. At that moment, a sharp voice spread from outside the cave. Monster Emperor raised his head, and a weird glow flashed in his eyes. He got up and walked outside. The Alliance Envoy outside was a little nervous. Before he came, he had investigated Monster Emperor. He was a really terrifying person, and if he didn't like him, he would kill him. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. But he was the Alliance Envoy, so even if he was afraid, he couldn't show it. Very quickly, he noticed a black shadow pressing down, and the ground started to shake. The Alliance Envoy swallowed his saliva. It was so terrifying. He raised his head and looked out. The first thought he had was that this person was so fat. He was even a little too fat. Suddenly, Pata! Monster Emperor opened his hands and grabbed his head. He lifted it up and squinted his eyes. I can see shock and uneasiness in your eyes. Are you afraid of me? Sir Monster Emperor, I am representing the Alliance headquarters to discuss something with you. I don't have any other thoughts. The Alliance Envoy panicked. Although he was strong, in front of Monster Emperor, he was still too weak. But in front of Monster Emperor, he was too weak as a piece of paper. What is it? Monster Emperor said. The Alliance Envoy said anxiously, Sir Monster Emperor, the Alliance has broken through the 8 defense lines, and the Alliance army has entered. The headquarters hopes that we can work with you, and hope that you can help us when we fight the top sections. Kiki, Monster Emperor laughed. He laughed for a long while, and then said, Work together? I don't want to work with you. It is so boring to play with you. You only know how to work together. Do you think I can be bought so easily? What does the Alliance treat me as? The Alliance Envoy was shocked. Monster Emperor, the Alliance definitely doesn't. Pong. Monster Emperor clenched his fingers and smashed the head of the Alliance Envoy. He waved his hand and tossed away the dirty thing. He raised his head and laughed out loud. Insect Valley, I am here. Pong. When Monster Emperor flew into the air, the entire forest collapsed and turned into ruins. Not bad. I have accumulated over 200,000 rage points. Lin Fan looked at the rage points and was quite satisfied. The main thing was that there were too few Ocean Tide Temple disciples, and they were a little weak. The rage points they provided weren't much. If he didn't use quantity to replace it, it would be so embarrassing. Of course, the most important thing was that there were some cultivation techniques. What he needed the most now were Tao Realm techniques. Ocean Tide Temple had Tao Realm experts. They definitely had Tao Realm techniques. Chapter 377. Zhu Shun was thinking about what was going to happen next. He was under huge pressure because young Master Lin was by his side. He couldn't let anything happen to young Master Lin. Now that he had turned into a pig, it was good that he didn't attract attention. He quietly waited by young Master Lin's side, and when he was caught off guard, he would be able to be of great use. Lin Fan didn't hide anything. He opened the dimension and took out the secret manual that he had harvested. After choosing, there were only 2 Tao Realm techniques. Thinking about how Ocean Tide Temple only had 2 Tao Realm techniques, it wasn't embarrassing. Zhu Shun, you are at Tao Realm, so can you tell me your Tao Realm techniques? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shun looked at young Master Lin and felt really confused. Young Master Lin, why do you need Tao Realm techniques? If it's cultivation, I don't recommend you to cultivate mine. My secret technique doesn't suit young Master Lin. Can't bear to? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shun was stunned. He didn't expect young Master Lin to be so direct. All of a sudden, Zhu Shun didn't know how to reply. Shortly after, Zhu Shun reacted and said anxiously, How is that possible? I definitely won't be unwilling. I swore an oath, really. Zhu Shun thought that young Master Lin didn't believe him, so he said solemnly. Lin Fan said, That's good. Tell me which Tao Realm technique you are cultivating. If I don't even have a Tao Realm technique, then it won't make sense. Ocean Tide Temple only has 2 Tao realm techniques. That is just so embarrassing. Zhu Shun was totally stunned by young Master Lin's words. Young Master Lin, actually it is not bad that Ocean Tide Temple has 2 Tao realm techniques. Zhu Shun said. Is that so? Lin Fan didn't know much about secret manuals. Zhu Shun was helpless. He could only say that this rich family young master didn't understand the importance of secret techniques. Actually, when Lin Fan went to Rong City to buy techniques with Feng Poliu, he could tell that Grandmaster techniques were expensive, much less Tao Realm techniques. No matter how bad a Tao Realm technique was, it was a priceless treasure. As a mid-tier sect, Ocean Tide Temple was lucky to have 2 Tao Realm techniques. As for secret techniques and whatnot, that depended entirely on luck. Anyway, Ocean Tide Temple didn't have any secret techniques. In other people's words, secret techniques were almost like the Tao. They could not be encountered by chance, nor could they be sought. It was just that Lin Fan didn't know the importance of secret techniques. He was already extremely lucky to be able to obtain the Blood Demon Reversal technique previously. Zhu Shun walked beside Lin Fan and said softly. He isolated the area like he was really wary of others. Cha Fu glanced sideways and looked at Zhu Shun in disdain. Who was he guarding against? It was so obvious. Wasn't he guarding against him? Wasn't it just a Tao realm technique? What was there to defend against? Even if you wanted to tell me, I wouldn't be willing to listen. But it smells so good. Cha Fu looked like he didn't care, but he tried his best to listen in. But Zhu Shun was much more skilled. After all, his realm was much higher than his, so he was able to hear it. After trying to eavesdrop for a long time and failing to hear anything, Cha Fu stopped listening. As expected, he was really stingy. Come here and massage Master's shoulders. Su Furong nudged his junior with his elbow. Hurry up, Master is calling for you to massage his shoulders. It's your chance to shine. Why don't you go? Zhen Xiaobao asked. I am a senior brother, so I will definitely leave such a good thing to you. Su Furong said, hurry up, don't make Master wait too long. Zhu Shun said all the Tao Realm techniques that he cultivated. Seeing that Zhu Shun didn't say anything, Lin Fan asked, that's all? No, just 3. But young Master Lin, don't underestimate these 3 Tao Realm techniques. They aren't simple, and if you want to cultivate them to a high realm, you'll have to pay a huge price. Zhu Shun said, if other people asked Zhu Shun for Tao Realm techniques, they would probably be beaten to death. But since it was Lin Fan, he had no choice but to give it to him. Lin Fan felt that it was too little. Just 5 Tao Realm techniques was just too pitiful. Slaughtering Red Lotus. This Tao Realm technique was cultivated by Zhu Shun, and it was a dual cultivation technique. Zhu Shun might have looked like he was just using a machete, but his hands and legs were actually really strong. Increased stats. Consumed 10,000 rage points. Slaughtering Red Lotus. Basics, instantly. A mysterious aura spread out from Lin Fan. Zhu Shun wanted to say something, but suddenly, his eyes were stunned like he had seen a ghost. He had never expected that someone would be able to successfully cultivate a technique after obtaining it. That was because such a person didn't exist. But what was going on in front of him? A burning red lotus appeared around young Master Lin, and shortly after, a pagoda floated above his head. Light shot out from the pagoda and covered young Master Lin. Lin Fan sensed the mysterious power. It was really strong and really overbearing. It made him have more and more thoughts about the next realm. Increased stats. Consumed 20,000 rage points. Slaughtering Red Lotus, advanced level. The burning Red Lotus originally only had 1 petal, but now there were 2. The pagoda had 2 floors. Quangdang. Zhu Shun laid on the ground, and his eyes were about to pop out. Damn it, he had just seen a ghost. It was just too terrifying. He didn't even dare to believe what he was seeing. That was a little too high profile. Lin Fan cultivated so openly. Actually, it didn't matter to him. Wasn't it just cultivation? It wasn't a big deal at all. But he closed his eyes and sensed the situation around. He realized that Zhu Shun was totally subdued. He laid on the ground like he couldn't take it anymore. Forget it. It was better to be low profile in case he scare him silly. Instantly, the red lotus and the two-story pagoda were kept into his body. Improve. Improve. Slaughtering red lotus, returning to true, he directly raised this Tao realm technique to the highest realm. At the same time, he transformed it into Tao patterns. At that moment, the surrounding environment changed. The slightly dark forest in the distance seemed to be covered by a red light. Zhu Shen looked at young Master Lin with his mouth agape. What was going on? Master Lin, you never said that young Master Lin was so overpowered. He became stronger again. The number of Tao patterns had increased by 1, increasing from 73 to 74. But the consumption was also shocking. He directly consumed 210,000 rage points. Remaining rage points, 30355. At that moment, Lin Fan opened his eyes. In his left eye, there was a 6-petal red lotus burning. In his right eye, there was a 6-story pagoda. Young Master Lin, did you cultivate the slaughtering red lotus to the highest realm? Zhu Shen was stunned. Although he didn't dare to believe it, the aura just now was just too shocking. Lin Fan smiled. No, I am not so overpowered. Zhu Shen looked at Lin Fan. He originally believed him, but for some reason, in the depths of his heart, he chose not to believe him. Otherwise, he would suffer a huge blow. Only when he used it did he realize that he didn't have enough rage points. In the future, he couldn't waste rage points anymore. He had to cherish it and accumulate it well. His cultivation was only at Tao Realm Stage 1 Tao Pattern Realm, and there was a long way to go to Tao Realm Stage 2. But with his current strength, he could easily crush someone at Tao Realm Stage 2. His own strength was just too overpowered, so it was a little scary. Cha Fu was speechless. As they got to know each other, he realized that young Master Lin was just too overpowered. He had just imparted techniques, and he was able to cultivate so much. How overpowered could he be? The next day, Lin Fan and the others continued to head out aimlessly. At the same time, things happened all around. King Wudong became the new emperor of the imperial dynasty. He worshipped his ancestors and ascended to the throne. The cities around the imperial dynasty were all in King Wudong's hands. But he knew that this was an emperor with no real power. Of course, that was only to him. Other people didn't sense it at all. He recruited experts in the world, and as long as they were loyal to him, he would give them huge rewards. Thus, many experts came to serve him. Some of them were from mid-tier sects, and some were shady ones who killed many people. If this was in the past, for the safety of the imperial dynasty, these people would definitely die. But it was different now. As long as one was strong, one could get what they wanted. To the commoners, it didn't matter if the emperor changed. Anyway, he was the brother of the previous emperor, and it didn't matter if he was one of them. As such, they didn't cause much of a commotion. Unfortunately, this only applied to the cities near the imperial dynasty. Those cities that were far away were split up by the top sections. It wasn't that King Wudong didn't want to reclaim the cities, but that the imperial dynasty had no foundations and was just an empty shell. Those top aristocratic families had left long ago. Zhao family, Su family, etc. had all left. But it was better for the cities to be in the hands of the top sects than in the hands of the Alliance. The Alliance broke through the 8 defense lines and occupied the city. Jiang City stretched out in a horizontal line. There were a total of 28 cities. Many Jiang City commoners fled, but some didn't. They were suppressed by the Alliance, and all of them became laborers. Even the rich and powerful families were the same. No one was spared. Of course, the Alliance headquarters wanted to kill them all. But those who wanted peace were really problematic. They protested and caused the Alliance headquarters plan to fail. They could only make these people the most lowly slaves and do the most tiring work. The Alliance cheered loudly for occupying so many cities. After all, the Alliance had won and occupied so many cities so they could develop the Alliance. These 28 cities had also become places for business development. Many Alliance citizens wanted to spend large sums of money to come to these places to see how the natives lived. At the same time, many giant-like machines were transported over and embedded in the ground. They worked day and night to produce resources, allowing the Alliance to have a breather and replenish their resources. The cooperation between the Alliance and the Imperial Dynasty naturally didn't escape the eyes of the top sections. They knew that the Alliance's goal was to take all the land, and they wouldn't let the top sects occupy it. So, some of the top sects worked together to form a giant network. White Lotus St. Purity Mountain roped in many top sects to form the Buddha Alliance. Guasian Island formed the Celestial Alliance. Yin Yang sect formed the Monster Alliance. Shidao sect, which came from Yin Yang sect, formed the Evil Alliance. Now, the four alliances grabbed onto large areas of land. The top sects didn't interfere with one another, but if the alliance attacked, they would gather together to fight back. This was something that the alliance didn't expect. After all, even the alliance didn't expect the top sects to work together so quickly. Even the top sects that worked with them fell out. Chapter 378. Chafu, where are we now? Lin Fan asked. This place was really foreign, and he had never been so far away. Chafu looked at the surroundings and said, "This is Mount Wei. There are no cities or sects nearby. It is considered the wilderness. However, if we walk forward for another 700 miles, we will pass by Sea City. The Imperial Dynasty's territory is really huge." Lin Fan left U City at his fastest speed and flew for 15 days. He didn't dare to say anything else as he knew that they were at least a few 100,000 miles away. Even then, they were still within the territory of the Imperial Dynasty. With King Wudong as the leader, it was basically impossible for the Imperial Dynasty to control such a huge territory. Wait. Suddenly, Lin Fan raised his hand as he sensed that there was a sound from the side. Listen, do you guys hear a lot of noise? It seems like they are fighting and the situation is really intense. There are so many of them. Lin Fan's ears perked up and he listened carefully. You can even hear that? Su Furong was really suspicious of what Lin Fan said. Zhu Shan said, "Young Master Lin, I think it is best if we don't join in. After all, it has nothing to do with us." To Zhu Shan, he just wanted to take good care of young Master Lin. He didn't think too much about other things. As for fighting, he would let others fight. It was best if they didn't join in the fun. Zhu Shan's words make sense. Chafu agreed with what Zhu Shan said. It had nothing to do with him anyway. Okay, let's not talk about all this. Why are all of you so cowardly? Are all of you so cowardly now that you are old? Lin Fan wouldn't miss this chance. He said that from now onwards, he wouldn't waste any chance to gain rage points. Now that there was movement, if he acted like he didn't see anything, wouldn't his heart hurt? Zhu Shan said, "Young Master Lin, everything is for our safety." The situation was really complicated. The top sects were really active, and so was the Alliance. Truthfully, to Zhu Shan, he felt that the chances of bumping into a top sect had increased by a lot. Safe? We have always been really safe. Didn't you notice that we have thought everything through? Furthermore, when we head over later on, we won't come out immediately. We'll just watch from the side. As long as there aren't any powerful beings, we'll strike immediately. Lin Fan said. Zhu Shan didn't understand something. Why was young Master Lin so tirelessly provoking him? There were no benefits at all. If it was some treasure, it would be understandable. But now it was very boring. If he had the energy, he might as well cultivate and raise his cultivation. That would be the most important thing. Lin Fan definitely couldn't tell Zhu Shan that he didn't offend him for any treasures. If there were two choices, one of the options was to have all sorts of heavenly treasures, while the other was to have many enemies gathered together. If there was a choice, of course, he wanted all of them, but if he could only choose one, he would choose the enemy without hesitation. Stop wasting time. Let's go take a look. Lin Fan couldn't wait any longer. He didn't really want to see what was going on, but he felt that as time went on, more people would die. These were all rage points, and he couldn't waste them like that. Looking at young Master Lin charge forwards, Zhu Shan was really helpless. He sighed and had no choice but to follow behind. "Master, I feel like our days aren't going to be peaceful," Su Furong said softly. He felt that Lin Fan was just too arrogant and lawless. It was as if he wasn't afraid of anything. Glad to say that. It was indeed very pleasing to the eye. Su Furong was so jealous that he was about to turn into lemon juice. Look more and speak less, Cha Fu said. His two disciples were just so worrisome. From top to bottom, from head to toe, it was hard to see any good points from them. If one looked at them from the inside, then the only good point was that they were obedient. In the distance, the sounds of fighting were really intense. Both sides slashed and blocked. Both sides fought back and forth, and it was really intense. There doesn't seem to be any strong experts. Lin Fan looked at the people fighting in the air. Although the energy fluctuations were really strong, they were still a huge distance away from the so-called experts in Lin Fan's heart. That's weird. Why are there two sects fighting here? Cha Fu was really confused. He knew that there weren't any sects around. So where did these people come from? From hundreds of miles away? That didn't seem possible. If they really came from hundreds of miles away, then they must have had problems with their brains. Why do they have to come here to fight? What is so weird about that? They're so engrossed in the battle that they can run and fight at the same time or choose a good place to bury their bones. Lin Fan said, both sides had about the same number of people, a total of 70 to 80. But the difference in strength was a little terrifying. The strong ones flew into the sky, and the weak ones rolled on the ground to hide. Aya! When Lin Fan saw a disciple being slashed to death, he couldn't bear to see it happen. It was such a waste, and it wasn't worth it. That fellow who just died could provide him with a lot of rage points. He couldn't fight anymore. If he did, then all of them would die. Stop! Lin Fan didn't say any nonsense and hollered. He had to make these people stop. If they continued to fight, then there wouldn't be any benefits. Zhu Shun scoffed out of habit, and a look of despair appeared on his face. Master Lin, please come out. I'm begging you. I really can't take care of your son. He is just too fierce and rash. He is totally lawless and doesn't care about others at all. He didn't even look at how many people there were and just stood out to tell them to stop. Well, there were experts. Su Furong opened his mouth. This is getting worse and worse. It's like we're in deep mud. Handsome, amazing. Zhen Xiaobao was filled with respect. He respected such experts. In the past, he respected senior brother, but now he changed the direction of respect to Lin Fan. The people on both sides didn't care about Lin Fan at all. Maybe he was too young and didn't receive the respect he deserved. That is a little too much. Lin Fan frowned and was really unhappy. He came out to stop them, but they actually ignored him. That was just too much. Forget it. Sometimes he had to do things himself. Although Zhu Shun was strong, his comprehension was weak, and he couldn't compare to his cousin at all. Just now, if he said those words and they didn't listen, his cousin would definitely attack right away. He would tell them that his cousin was talking to them and that they were all deaf. Lin Fan opened his arms and the space around shook. The clouds in the sky surged. Such scenes didn't attract anyone's attention. Shortly after, Lin Fan flipped his arms around. With a swoosh, countless sword wheels filled the entire sky. Every single one of these sword wheels gave off a cold gleam. A terrifying aura covered the area. The two sides that didn't stop instantly stopped. They all raised their heads and looked at the sky in terror. Damn, what was going on? How did this happen? The experts who were fighting in the air landed. Their faces were ashen white. Other people might not have sensed how terrifying the sword intent was, but they were more sensitive than anyone else. They felt that the sword intent just needed a bit to kill them. Now you know to stop? Lin Fan's voice spread out. To him, maybe only when he exploded out would he be able to threaten these people. When the people on both sides heard that voice, they were shocked, and they all turned around. Lin Fan was really young, so young that it was a little too much. Some people heard Lin Fan when he said to stop, but because of his age, they underestimated him. They felt like this kid who didn't even grow up actually came to stop their battle and didn't care at all. At that moment, an expert who landed from the sky wanted to speak, but Lin Fan stopped him. All of you don't speak. That is because to me, you are all trash. Lin Fan didn't want them to speak, as there was no need. His goal here was to gain rage points, and he had no other goal. Party A, Party B, our side. Zhu Shun's eyes opened wide. He thought that young Master Lin was going to do something, but when young Master Lin said those words, he was stunned like he had seen a ghost. Young Master Lin, what were you thinking? You came here and stopped them just to say such things to them? Rage points plus 999 rage points plus 999 rage points plus 111. Naturally, those people were infuriated by Lin Fan's words. They really didn't expect someone to be so arrogant, but they had no choice. Lin Fan had the ability to be so arrogant. They raised their heads and looked at the sky. Did any of them feel fear? It was just too terrifying. The sword intent was like many mountains pressing down on their bodies, such that they didn't dare to say anything. Is no one going to jump for me to see? Are all you cowards? Lin Fan asked. He had no choice. He could only continue to mock them and hope that they would become even more furious. Friend, shut up. Lin Fan flicked his finger and the air was compressed. With a xiao, the person who spoke felt like his chest was struck and he flew backward, smashing into the ground not far away. Is no one going to jump out? Lin Fan's move shocked everyone. Rage points plus 999. Hearing Lin Fan's words, the surrounding people only had one thought in their minds. Damn, someone jumped out, but was suppressed by one finger. What did this fellow want? As a pig, Zhu Shun revealed a human-like expression. But at such a time, no one would pay attention to a pig. To Zhu Shun, he felt that young Master Lin's ability to cause trouble was really strong. He provoked him for no reason at all. At least he had a goal. They were all thinking about the same thing. Who is this fellow? We didn't offend him, right? P.S. Recently, my stomach has been hurting badly, and today is the most painful. I sat there in a cold sweat. Chapter 379. Zhu Shun communicated with young Master Lin softly. Young Master Lin, why are you doing this? Or are there any benefits? That was the only thing Zhu Shun could think of. If there were no benefits at all, young Master Lin didn't need to do that. You don't understand. Lin Fan replied. Zhu Shun blinked. Such a reply filled him with despair. Just one you don't understand was enough to stop him at the door. He really didn't understand. If he did, he wouldn't have asked. To Zhun Xiaobao, no matter whether or not he understood, he felt that Senior Lin was really overbearing and he wanted to become someone like him. In the eyes of these people, Lin Fan was like a huge mountain that was pressing down on them. It was so heavy that they could barely breathe. Rage points increased. Lin Fan was really satisfied with such a process. Wasn't this the reason why he came here? Look at how vicious all of you look like you want to swallow me up. Come, I will stand here. Swallow me up, and I promise that I won't fight back. Lin Fan said. The sword intent that was floating in the air sank a little. Damn. To those people, they felt that there was something wrong with this person's head. They nearly believed him. If he promised that he wouldn't attack, then why did the sword intent sink? Did he think that they were fools? At that moment, no one dared to move, as they were all stunned. They were having a good battle, and such a person popped out to insult them. Did he really think that he could do whatever he wanted just because he was strong? Actually, he really could do whatever he wanted. Looking at the sword intent in the air, it was just so terrifying. Apart from Lin Fan, who knew what he wanted, Cha Fu and Zhu Shun couldn't imagine what he wanted. A long while later, the rage points slowly disappeared. He took a look. 80,000 rage points. It wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small amount. It was actually quite decent, but there were some weak people mixed in. He could only harvest so much at once. Moreover, these were all unexpected gains. If they knew that this was the truth, they would definitely spit out blood. They were treated like sheep for no reason, so naturally, they were annoyed. But what could they do? Zhu Shun, let's go. Lin Fan patted his bum and prepared to leave. At the same time, he looked at these people and let out a creepy smile. Zhu Shun looked at Lin Fan in confusion. He insulted him for a period of time and then left. Why did he do so much? There had to be a reason, right? Cha Fu frowned. Although he was with Lin Fan and the others, he had not completely integrated with them. He was not used to their style of doing things. Leaving just like that? He thought that young Master Lin would suppress all of them. After all, he had already offended him, and keeping him around would only bring him more trouble. Naturally, he had to eliminate the root of the problem. But how could he understand Lin Fan's intentions? Killing was a very bad thing. Unless he was especially annoyed, he would not do it. It would be better to keep it. To be able to continuously provide rage points, wave after wave, wasn't that something unimaginable? Zhu Shun followed behind Lin Fan. Since that was the case, it was good that they left in case anything happened. Please wait. Suddenly, a crisp voice rang out. It was a woman's voice. Lin Fan stopped in his tracks. He was really curious. He had not expected that there would be a woman in this group of people. He had observed them earlier on, and there were no women in the battle. He turned his head and looked out. The person that Lin Fan thought was a woman walked out. She was wearing male clothes, and her hair was tied up. There was a black veil over her face, and if one looked closely, one would notice that her eyes were really bright. Also, that body. Thinking about it, it was not bad. What? Lin Fan asked. Don't tell me that you want me to save all of you. Mu Gang was thinking about this. They were chased all the way here and had nowhere else to go. She thought that they were going to die here, but Lin Fan appeared, and that gave her hope. Right as she was about to say something, Lin Fan's words stopped her. What he said was exactly what she wanted to say. Looking at you, it seems like I was right. Lin Fan smiled. He didn't expect him to be right. But thinking about it, wasn't this a normal scenario? Apart from saving their lives, what else could it be? Mu Gang was stunned for a moment and then said right away, Senior, please save us. We are Sky Moon Mountain disciples, Mu Gang. We weren't willing to be swallowed, so they chased us all the way here. We definitely weren't chased for some treasure, and we aren't trying to use you. Lin Fan was really calm. Although her voice was really nice, his heart didn't waver at all. I'm not interested. That is your problem, and it has nothing to do with me. Lin Fan said. He wasn't interested in girls at the moment. If he helped just because you asked him, then he would lose so much face. Zhu Shun heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like young Master Lin finally understood that it was best not to be a busybody. Mu Gang was a little anxious. If they missed such a chance, everyone here would die. Senior, as long as you save us, I am willing to be your slave and servant to repay you. Servant? Lin Fan thought about it. Without Go Zi by his side, there was no one to serve him. Zhu Shun had turned into a pig. Not to mention having Zhu Shun serve him, it was already a good thing that he didn't have to take care of him. Young Master, sure. Zhu Shun saw that young Master was hesitating and felt like having a maid to take care of him was a good choice. The people chasing Sky Moon Mountain realized that the people who were about to leave were tempted by Mu Gang's words. They were a little nervous. They really wanted to talk to him, but deep down, they were afraid. He was too strong, and who knew whether or not he was willing to talk. If he wasn't, he might just slap them to death. Lin Fan was in deep thought as he looked at him. Mu Gang was a little nervous. The people beside her pulled her slightly and hoped that she wouldn't be rash. But Mu Gang shook her head like she had already made her decision. As the daughter of the Sky Moon Mountain sect leader, she had always been protected by the disciples. Now that danger was here, it was time for her to protect the disciples. Do you know how to cook? Lin Fan asked. Mu Gang nodded. Yes. She felt like as long as he was willing to talk to her, then there was still hope. Do you know how to massage? Lin Fan asked. Mu Gang was stunned and then said, I haven't tried it before, but I am willing to. Will you be obedient? Lin Fan asked. Yes. If I tell you to go west, will you go north? No. No. Yes. These questions were really asking him to find a servant. The people from Sky Moon Mountain were unwilling, but they had no choice. Yeah. Lin Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. The initial questions were okay, and if he developed her well, he would be able to develop a decent maid. Remove the black veil on your face, and let me see what you look like. Now, was the interview, and if she didn't pass, then there was no need to talk anymore. Although he wasn't interested in women, her flower-like looks were really attractive. Even if he was at Dao Realm, he might not be able to handle it. Mu Gang removed the black veil. Her features were really exquisite, and her face was small and soft. When put together, she was really beautiful. So beautiful. Zhun Xiaobao opened his eyes wide and didn't even blink. She's like a fairy. Su Furong was stunned. Lin Fan nodded, not bad. Zhu Shun said, Young Master, she is already beautiful. There is no need to have such high expectations. He was really helpless. To those people who were chasing Sky Moon Mountain, they felt terrified and uneasy. No matter how they looked at it, they felt like the negotiation was about to succeed. But they were about to face a tragedy. Do you know how to do a split? Try cheating on me, Lin Fan said. Shua, Zhu Shun and the others looked at Lin Fan and were stunned. What kind of weird request was that? They had never heard of it before. Mu Gang didn't know what a split meant. Lin Fan explained it, and then Mu Gang's face flushed red as she did that. Perfect. Okay, you shall be my maid and serve me. Lin Fan was satisfied. As a rich family young master, was it too much to have a maid by his side? It wasn't at all. Looking at the lives of other rich families' young masters, they didn't need many maids, and he only had one Gozi. That made him seem really poor. This was why when Mu Gang said that she wanted to be his maid, he had a new idea. He had already predicted the outcome of the future. He would definitely crush the alliance and become a rich family young master once more. When that happened, he would start to enjoy life. So, he didn't mind getting some high-quality maids along the way. Whether or not they were beautiful was another matter. He had to be multi-talented. This one was decent. When he was free, he would let her do a split in front of him. How perfect would that be? Follow me then, Lin Fan said before walking forward. Mu Gang was stunned. Things weren't like that, those people, but she realized that Lin Fan had no intention of stopping, so she chased after him. The people chasing Sky Moon Mountain heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Lin Fan was only taking Mu Gang away. They smiled. It seemed like he wasn't a fool. How would he go against them for a woman? Kill. Seeing that Lin Fan was walking further away, they hollered and headed towards the people from Sky Moon Mountain. They swore that they wouldn't stop until they chopped them to death. The people from Sky Moon Mountain had solemn expressions on their faces. They gritted their teeth and could only fight head-on. At the same time, they felt fortunate that Mu Gang had left. Suddenly, an energy wave struck from the distance. It was really quick, and in the blink of an eye, all of them were sliced in half. A bunch of retards. They didn't even complete the deal and still dared to attack. Lin Fan frowned and was really annoyed. Truthfully, he just wanted to find a reason to wipe them out. He didn't have any other intentions. At the same time, they cooperated well and did their best. He was really satisfied. Mu Gang was really worried, but when she saw those scenes, she heaved a sigh of relief. Thank you. Lin Fan smiled and didn't say anything. But he didn't expect those people from Sky Moon Mountain to chase over. He waved his sleeves. A deep moat was sliced open in the ground, stunning everyone. Why did you follow me? I took her as my maid, and I have no interest in all of you. Leave. Lin Fan waved his hands. He felt like these people actually wanted to suck up to him. How can anyone suck up to such a strong person? Chapter 380. Elder, are we just going to let Junior Sister leave with him? The Sky Moon Mountain disciple asked with a stunned expression. The elder who escaped with the disciples looked at the enemies who were sliced in half and felt really tired. He sighed heavily and spat out a mouthful of grievance. Maybe to Mu Gang, this is the best outcome. From today onwards, Sky Moon Mountain will no longer exist. Don't think about taking revenge and just disband. In the future, when you have the ability, you can return to your former glory. The elder said, since the outcome was already decided, so what if they didn't let her go? Look at how many corpses there were. Lin Fan was just too strong. They didn't even know how to attack, and all of them were killed. Everyone kept silent, and the atmosphere was a little sad. They didn't want it to end just like that. Unfortunately, there was nothing they could do. In the end, it was because they weren't strong enough. If they were strong enough, such a thing wouldn't have happened. Lin Fan was delighted to have a maid who was good in all aspects, and he felt really good. Remember to call me young master in the future. Yes, young master. Mu Gang had already accepted the current situation. Moreover, this was her choice, and there was nothing to regret. She had just started to notice the people around young master. The others were normal, and the only ones who weren't normal were a tender pig and a 9-headed bug. Zhu Shun and Lin Fan's conversation stunned Mu Gang. She had never seen a pig that could talk, and it was just so magical. Lin Fan saw that Mu Gang was a little stunned. Although she was pretty and had a good body, if she didn't have a warm smile, she was nothing. Was she worried about something? Maybe she was thinking too much and thinking that he would do something to her. Don't worry, I'm not perverted. If I was, then it would be useless. Maintain a smile and remember your job. Lin Fan said. Mu Gang was thinking about Sky Moon Mountain, and when young master said that, she actually became nervous. Although she had become a maid, she wasn't prepared to lose her chastity. She heard people say that a maid had to take care of everything. For example, the thing that would give her a few seconds of pleasure. But what he said next made her heave a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on her face. Understood, young master. Mu Gang lowered her head and peeked at Lin Fan. She realized that this person who was going to be her young master wasn't that scary. In the end, young people were still too young. Perhaps it was because Lin Fan was too friendly and rarely bullied others, giving others the feeling that he was very kind. Zhu Shen looked at Mu Gang and thought about something. If something really happened between young Master Lin and this maid, that would be a good choice. Maybe it would make Master Lin happier. Forget it. What's the point of thinking about these things? I should pay more attention to my surroundings. He felt that with young Master Lin's personality, it was normal for him to cause trouble. Just by opening his mouth, he could attract a bunch of enemies. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Imperial Dynasty. King Wudong was on thin ice, and there was no one he could trust around him. Maybe the shadow hiding in the dark was one, but what he had to face now wasn't as simple as he imagined. On the table was a map that recorded all the cities of the Imperial Dynasty. More than half of them were circled in red, and many of them were marked with red crosses. The top sects occupied more cities than expected. At the same time, they found out about the situation of the four alliances. Those sects were really bold and totally disregarded the Imperial Dynasty. They occupied land and also supported many dynasties to claim titles. Great Wei, Great Gone, etc. What a joke. They had no foundation, no culture, no history, and yet they dared to call themselves dynasties. Even if they were so angry, it was useless. The Imperial Dynasty had no way to reclaim these lost lands. Brother, what should I do? King Wudong felt like he was floating on the surface of the ocean, and no one could help him. The people around him were all people with bad intentions, and they couldn't be relied on at all. Sometimes he wanted to smash his head into a pillar and die. The pressure was too huge, and even in his dreams, he was afraid that he would shout, "I don't want to rebel." The torture day and night had left him exhausted. But each time he thought about how his brother used his life to protect him, he would be pumped up. He definitely couldn't let his brother die for nothing. The Imperial Dynasty had to be passed down. You bunch of dogs, you're forcing me. I will let you know the outcome of betraying the Imperial Dynasty. King Wudong made a huge wish to kill these people around him. I have to think of a way to kill one tomorrow. Those who had rebelled with him had all been rewarded. Allowing them to live comfortably was a humiliation to him. The person he wanted to kill the most was Lu Xian. However, Lu Xian was cunning and could take it. He didn't have a chance. Lu Xian was a strategist and was old friends with Lin Wani, so he wasn't stupid. Since King Wudong ascended to the throne, he would definitely think of a way to kill him. Based on his thoughts, they could suffer together, but they definitely wouldn't share the riches. The safest way was to resign and leave. But Lu Xian didn't want to let go of the power in his hands, so he could only bear with it and not let King Wudong have anything to use against him. Moreover, Lu Xian had already contacted the alliance. It was obvious that he wanted to sit on both sides and benefit from both sides. If Lin Fan knew about the situation on King Wudong's side, he would definitely grumble. All of them were cultivating to break through while all of them were scheming against each other. A sealed space was ripped apart by a terrifying power. The surrounding space shattered like a mirror, revealing a pitch-black mountain range. These black mountains gave off a chilling aura. At the same time, many strange tentacles soared into the sky from a certain mountain range before falling down, kicking up a cloud of dust and bursting out with a series of rumbling sounds. Insect Valley appeared. Insect Valley, I am back. A fat body descended from the sky and landed in a mountain range. At that moment, weird screeches spread out from all the mountain ranges. At the same time, many terrifying auras exploded out from Insect Valley. Each aura locked down the mountain range where Monster Emperor landed. Monster Emperor is back. Preposterous thing. He actually dared to return. Numerous voices rang out, and it was obvious that they were furious at Monster Emperor's return. Monster Emperor landed on the ground and looked at the familiar, yet foreign environment. He hadn't returned in many years. Kiki. Monster Emperor's lips curled up, and his smile was really vicious. A terrifying aura spread out from his body, and the quiet surroundings started to become restless. Coming to Insect Valley made Monster Emperor feel like a fish in water. That feeling felt really good. It even made him feel like no one could defeat him. The ground shook like there was an earthquake. Kacha! The ground cracked, and numerous tentacles spread out from the cracks. At the same time, all sorts of weird bugs started to move around. Numerous bugs gathered together. A bug ocean formed, forming a 1,000-foot bug wall that started to swallow everything in front of it. As expected, only Insect Valley can make my body feel really happy. Monster Emperor smiled. He felt like he was a god here, an omnipotent god. Numerous bugs listened to his commands and swallowed everything. Puh! Suddenly, a thin and crisp sound spread out like the space around was about to shatter. Wave-like patterns spread out circle after circle. Monster Emperor, why did you come back? A mysterious power blocked the bug ocean. Then, the bug ocean dissipated and everything returned to normal. Monster Emperor laughed. If I want to come back, then so be it. Don't all of you want to welcome me? Very quickly, many people floated in the air. They were the older generation experts of Insect Valley and were people that normal disciples couldn't even see. Some disciples in Insect Valley raised their heads and looked at Monster Emperor. They didn't recognize Monster Emperor and didn't know who he was. He was actually so bold to cause trouble in Insect Valley. Wasn't he afraid of being beaten to death? The older generation experts of Insect Valley frowned. Monster Emperor didn't change, and the only thing that changed was that he became stronger. Right, I haven't returned in a long time. Have you all heard the sound of waves or seen what they look like? Come, take a good look. All of you helped me choose all of these, but all of you aren't able to discover such beauty and need others to. I really feel that all of you are a bunch of fools. Monster Emperor laughed out loud and patted his stomach. His fat shook, and at the same time, a low sound spread out. Listen, do you hear that? Every day, every moment, I listen to it. I hated you in the past, but not now. I even thank all of you. If not for all of you, I wouldn't be who I am today. Monster Emperor laughed. He laughed in a maniacal manner, and it was hard to tell if he was happy or angry. To the older generation experts of Insect Valley, Monster Emperor was like a lunatic, and they didn't know what he was thinking about. Monster Emperor, Insect Valley doesn't welcome you. Leave now, and we can act like we didn't see you. The one who spoke was Insect Valley's technique teaching Hall Elder Zhualai. Zhualai was old and was said to be 130 years old. His dry face had a centipede-like scar, and as time went on, it looked really vicious. Oh, Zhualai, your words make me unhappy. In the past, you welcomed me and were used to testing those weird techniques on me. Half of my body is because of you, but I really have to thank you. If not for your experiments, it would have been tough for me to walk another path. Monster Emperor said. Zhualai's expression changed, and then he hollered, Nonsense! Monster Emperor, what do you want? Monster Emperor looked at everyone from Insect Valley and smacked his lips. He thought about it and said, Forget it. Since all of you don't welcome me, then I won't talk so much to all of you. Hand a 9-demon mother to me, and I will leave right away. If not, none of you will be able to live in peace. Zhualai frowned. Monster Emperor, you are dreaming. I think you should scram from Insect Valley. Otherwise, even if you want to leave, you won't be able to. Monster Emperor was helpless. Then, I will give a try. Maybe only Monster Emperor dared to come to Insect Valley alone. Chapter 381. So, Disciple is leaving this place. Zhualai hollered and then said to the others, Let's take him down. If we leave him alive, he'll be a problem. He shouldn't have existed a long time ago. His kindness created this thing. The surrounding disciples were shocked, and they felt like things weren't right. They were all disciples of Insect Valley, and they knew that normal sects couldn't compare to them. Now that a stranger had returned, and the few older generation experts from Insect Valley came out to stop him, everyone was so shocked that they didn't know what to say. But they didn't hesitate and fled the area. What a joke. Although they didn't know how strong this person was for the Insect Valley experts to pay so much attention to him, he definitely wasn't a joke. The ripples from the battle would be really terrifying. They were so close, and they might not even know how they died. Zhuo Lai waved his hands, and a wave-like barrier appeared, blocking this place from the outside world in case the ripples were too terrifying and destroyed Insect Valley. He didn't underestimate Monster Emperor. Although this person was sick in the head, he couldn't be underestimated. He wasn't stupid, and without absolute strength, he wouldn't return to Insect Valley. Now that he returned, it meant that he thought that he had the strength to fight Insect Valley. Looking at all of you makes me think back to that darkroom. The ground was wet, and I ate rotten bugs every day. There were too many, too many. Thinking about it, I really miss those days. Monster Emperor laughed, and then his smile turned dark and sunken. My goal here is to get the 9-demon mother, no matter whether you want to give it to me or not. I have never been unable to get what I want. At that moment, a shocking aura exploded from Monster Emperor's body. The ground below cracked, and numerous bugs floated into the air behind Monster Emperor. Monster Emperor reached out and clenched his fingers. The bugs gathered together and formed a giant black hand that grabbed forwards. Zhuo Lai was furious. He came to Insect Valley's territory and actually used their resources to fight them. He didn't hold Insect Valley in any regard at all. Monster Emperor's bug control ability was just too strong. The disciples in the distance had their mouths agape like they had seen a ghost. As Insect Valley disciples, naturally, they knew how rare Insect Valley's bug controlling technique was. Moreover, they felt that the path of cultivation was just too tough. Now, Monster Emperor had taught them a lesson. He let them understand that their bug control skills were just pitifully weak. Rumble. The giant insect hand slammed into the light barrier, almost tearing it apart. Zhuo Lai frowned. Was he that strong? Monster Emperor's improvement was just too huge. At the same time, he could see the shadow of the bug controlling technique, but it was different from the bug controlling technique. Zhuo Lai, remember my words. I only want the mother. Monster Emperor hollered. His arm exploded and turned into numerous spikes. They spread out like they were piercing through space and covered Zhuo Lai and the others. Rumble. Deafening explosions rang out as the battle began. The terrifying aura condensed into a storm that enveloped everything in its surroundings. As the battle progressed, Zhuo Lai's expression turned gloomy. I didn't expect you to actually reach Dao Realm Stage 6 Undying Body. Zhuo Lai didn't expect Monster Emperor's talent to be so terrifying. He cultivated to such a level in just a few decades. He was probably not much weaker than Lin Wani, who was the most overpowered. Monster Emperor didn't say anything. He just guided the bugs that were nurtured in Insect Valley to attack them. When other people came to Insect Valley, not only did they have to face experts, but they also had to face the numerous bugs. But to Monster Emperor, nothing made him feel better than fighting in Insect Valley. Monster Emperor's injuries continued to deepen, but he was really well behaved. Those injuries instantly healed up. What is going on? Zhuo Lai frowned in disbelief. Undying Body was just a saying, and it didn't mean that he wouldn't die. Suddenly, he thought of a terrible thing. Monster Emperor, you succeeded? Zhuo Lai asked. Bug controlling technique was a secret technique of Insect Valley. Although it was said that the first Valley head created it, that was just a rumor. As the higher-ups of Insect Valley, naturally, they knew that it was the first Valley head who obtained it, which was how he built Insect Valley. Monster Emperor smiled. Right, I changed the bug controlling technique and found my own path. Didn't you say that it was impossible? Do you see it now? If I say that I will do it, then I will do it. No one can stop me, not even all of you. At that moment, Monster Emperor hollered in rage. His voice turned into sound waves that ignored the light barrier and spread outwards. The sound waves stimulated the disciples so much that their ears felt like they were about to explode. At the same time, they realized that the bugs they brought with them started to get restless, and they didn't listen to their commands at all. Instantly, the bugs that Insect Valley raised started to riot. Monster Emperor July calmed them down, but he didn't expect that they wouldn't listen to him at all. That filled him with disbelief and terror. Numerous tentacles spread out from the cracks in the ground. These were all bugs that Insect Valley raised. They were originally hiding deep underground, but who knew that they would all come out? If they started a riot, the outcome would be catastrophic. How long? Screams spread out. Those tentacles turned into long whips that smashed down, ripping apart buildings and causing many people to be injured. Monster Emperor's understanding of the bug-controlling technique exceeded everyone's imagination. He even changed the bug-controlling technique. Enough! Just at that moment, a hoarse voice spread out. Those restless bugs all calmed down. Monster Emperor looked into the distance. Did I force you out? Monster Emperor, leave the modified bug-controlling technique behind. If you agree, the mother is yours. That voice spread out once more. Kiki, trade? Sure. I'm not as complicated as you. I also like a trade, so there's no problem. Monster Emperor raised his hand, and many words and bug pictures appeared. They merged together, and he slapped. The words and pictures swept forwards. Instantly, they flew into the distance. Not long later, someone exclaimed, Monster! Although it felt like he was scolding him, he wanted to say that Monster Emperor was just too sick in the head. Now is the time for you to fulfill your promise. You should give me the mother. Monster Emperor said. The voice spread out. July, bring him to get the mother. July was really unwilling. He was really annoyed with Monster Emperor, but he had no choice. Things had developed to such a stage. So what if he was unwilling? Follow me. July looked at Monster Emperor and said. The battle ended. Those disciples looked at Monster Emperor in terror. Those who had spent a long time in Insect Valley remembered who he was. It had been decades, and if they didn't try to recall, they might not have been able to. Monster Emperor looked at the scenery around, and there were many familiar buildings. He thought back to a long time ago. At that time, he was really young, but he faced terror that others couldn't imagine. July, Insect Valley seems decent, but I want to wipe this place out. Monster Emperor said with a dark and sunken expression. July stopped, and killing intent spread out from his body. Monster Emperor, don't think that you can bully Insect Valley. Kiki. Monster Emperor smiled. How amusing. In the past, all of you didn't care about the bug-controlling technique that I modified, but now you want to use the body to exchange with me. Of course, there are people who can understand, but unfortunately, he isn't here anymore. I forgot to tell him that the technique wasn't complete, and it was easy for things to happen. Jualai's face became darker and darker. Monster Emperor, mind your words. The higher-ups knew that Phongpolia didn't kill his master, but some things couldn't be told to disciples and couldn't be spread out. Otherwise, Insect Valley's pride would be wiped out. Monster Emperor smiled and didn't care much about Jualai's threat. Jualai hated his fat body. It was the same as before, and there was no difference at all. The world has become fun. The appearance of the Alliance has caused all the sects to become active. Insect Valley has been in secluded meditation for so long, so it's time for you to head out. Monster Emperor said. Jualai didn't bother about Monster Emperor, as he knew that he couldn't trust him. Whoever believed Monster Emperor's words wouldn't even know how they died. Very quickly, under Jualai's lead, they came to a cave. This cave was really normal and unassuming, but Monster Emperor sensed that there were people guarding it. Jualai was wary of Monster Emperor. Although he had stopped and came to an agreement with Monster Emperor, he wouldn't trust him. Monster Emperor was really relaxed and wasn't as nervous as Jualai. Not long later, a giant corpse appeared in front of him. At the same time, there were iron chains on it. I really don't know why you want this corpse. Jualai said, when the mother was alive, it was really terrifying, but now that it was dead, it was such a waste. Monster Emperor smiled, and joy flashed in his eyes. He opened his hands, and a mysterious aura spread out from his palm and wrapped up the mother. Not long later, a blood orb the size of a pancake floated out of the mother's body. Zhualai looked at it and was shocked. Monster Emperor, what is this? For some reason, Zhualai felt like Monster Emperor had snatched something. Nothing. It is just the mother's blood. Monster Emperor didn't hide anything. He looked at Zhualai and swallowed the ball of blood into his body. Zhualai frowned and felt like Monster Emperor had an ulterior motive for coming to Insect Valley. Looking at Monster Emperor's expression, he felt like the blood was really important. If not, why would Monster Emperor give a modified bug controlling technique to Insect Valley so easily? What a bunch of fools. They actually don't know about such a precious thing. Kikik. Monster Emperor laughed and wasn't afraid that anyone would stop him. Okay, this mother body is useless to me. It is time to leave. Monster Emperor walked towards the outside. For some reason, Zhualai felt like Insect Valley was letting a terrifying beast go. Chapter 382. Monster Emperor left Insect Valley without anyone stopping him. Zhualai really wanted to stop him, but after hesitating for a long while, when he raised his head, there was no one at all. Suddenly, he realized that the mother body had shriveled up and turned into a dry corpse. He was stunned. How did this happen? When the mother died, the people from Insect Valley took away all the important things. They felt like the mother body had no more use for it, so they left it here. Moreover, Monster Emperor could just give it to him, so they didn't care much about it. No, I feel like I have suffered a huge loss. Zhualai immediately went to report the situation. The person who didn't appear to talk to Monster Emperor was the Insect Valley Grand Elder. At this moment, the bug controlling technique that Monster Emperor had given him was floating in front of him. I didn't expect Monster Emperor to have such shocking talent. We shouldn't have let him go that year. Thinking back, a long, long time ago, Monster Emperor was a baby that the Valley Head brought back from the outside and took him in as a disciple. They didn't find anything wrong with it, but when he was 4, they realized that he was really attracted to bugs. At the same time, he had a really strong connection with them. This was inconceivable, and it felt too mystical. Thus, they thought about a possibility and started to study Monster Emperor. Just like that, after many years of research, they gained something. Monster Emperor slowly changed. He became fatter and fatter, but his connection with bugs slowly weakened. When he was 20, he told everyone that he could modify the bug controlling technique to make it stronger. But no one believed him. But one person did. That was Feng Poliu's master. What happened next was really simple. That happened many years after Monster Emperor left Insect Valley. Feng Poliu's master cultivated the bug controlling technique that Monster Emperor left behind and had problems. To Insect Valley, they definitely couldn't allow such a thing to be leaked out. He cultivated the bug controlling technique that a disciple changed, and in the end, there were problems. Did he have to give up all his face? Zhualai came. The old man kept the things that Monster Emperor left behind. Enter. Zhualai told him everything that Monster Emperor did to the mother. That fist-sized blood ball was definitely not an ordinary item. Monster Emperor had a goal for coming to Insect Valley. As expected, after Zhualai said these words, the old man's expression became ugly. Anything that Monster Emperor paid attention to was definitely a good thing. But all the important things in the mother's body had been taken away by them. How could there be anything else important? All he wanted was that fist-sized blood bead. He didn't even want the corpse anymore. It seemed like he had missed out on something important. Your technique is a little rusty. Mu Gang knelt on the ground and gently pressed on Lin Fan's temples. Lin Fan was really comfortable as he laid on the ground and rested his head on Mu Gang's legs. He looked really relaxed. Young master, I will do my best. Mu Gang's face turned red. This action was just too intimate, and she had never thought that such a thing would happen. Lin Fan opened his eyes. Unfortunately, he couldn't see Mu Gang's disappointed expression. He could only see Mu Gang's chest. Damn, why did she have to block his sight? Yes, you do need to work hard. Your standard is too far away from my Gozi. If we were to rank you, you can only be considered below average. You still have a long way to go. Lin Fan said. Yes, Mu Gang replied. She wanted to cry, but no tears came out. It seemed like she would have to do such things in the future. Su Furong looked at this scene enviously. How he wished that the head lying on the snow-white thighs was his head. Unfortunately, this was all just a dream. He could only look on. Also, were those words even spoken by a human? That was just too much. Such a beautiful girl was massaging for him. Even if she was rusty, he had to praise her. Chafu looked at the envious gazes his two disciples had towards young Master Lin and shook his head. What was the point of being envious? He told them to cultivate, but none of them listened. So, all they could do now was be envious. Young Master, where should we go next? Zhu Shen asked. He was quite satisfied with the current situation. Although there were some conflicts, luckily, they didn't face any danger. If they could wait for Master Lin to return, that would be for the best. I don't know where to go, so let's just take a look. Lin Fan closed his eyes and said. At the same time, he gave Mu Gang pointers. He, who had been to many foot massage cities, had some experience with massaging. They were all legit, and he didn't need to think too much. Zhu Shen really wanted to slap himself a few times. What was the difference between asking and not asking at all? If young Master Lin knew where to go, then why would he waste time here? Suddenly, Lin Fan's expression changed. It wasn't because of what happened around, but because the darkness god domain in his body had a shocking change. A while ago, the darkness god domain was still the same. At most, half of the palace was restored, and the others were wrapped in gray mist. But now, the situation was different. He took a look. The palace in the darkness god domain was restored, and a dark and sinister palace stood in the god domain. His consciousness seemed to have been pulled into the god domain, and he realized that he was standing outside the palace. In front of him were two ancient stone doors. There was a picture on the stone door. It was a male holding a staff. He was really majestic and overbearing, giving one a godly aura. Not bad. It is starting to change. This is a good start. The moment Lin Fan pushed open the stone door, a strong gust of air burst forth from within the palace. Then, everything went silent. The dark and gloomy palace gave off a creepy vibe. Lin Fan was petrified by this dark and creepy palace as well. But shortly after, he wanted to smack his stupid head. The god domain was already in his body, so how could it kill him? He was just thinking too much. He walked into the palace. Pata! The interior of the palace lit up. The two tall statues on both sides frightened Lin Fan like he had seen a ghost. These statues were really huge, at least 8 meters tall. Lin Fan, who was walking in the middle, was surrounded by these statues and seemed a little weak. He had been thinking about what the god domain was. It didn't seem like something that belonged to this place. Thinking back to the legend when he obtained it, he felt like it was something from the heavens. He really didn't understand. He walked forwards, and many steps appeared. The steps were really high. He walked step by step, and in just a short while he reached the top. In front of him was a stone throne, and beside the throne's armrest was a scepter. Beside the scepter was a crown. Lin Fan looked at it and thought about it for a moment. Many scenes appeared in his mind. These weren't scenes from the god domain, but scenes from movies and animations that he had seen in the past. Pick up the scepter, wear the crown, and become a god? That was a little deep, but he could try. Lin Fan stood in front of the stone throne and placed the crown on his head. He then held the scepter and sat on the throne. The moment he sat down, a shocking change occurred. How long? With Lin Fan at the center, a terrifying aura exploded out and swept the entire god domain. At the same time, lightning wrapped around the sky. Lin Fan felt a will that he had never felt before charge at him. There wasn't any danger, and it seemed like he was receiving a legacy. Darkness Chief God. Lin Fan closed his eyes and entered a calm state. He was sensing the benefits that the Darkness God domain brought him. At the same time, he was sure that this thing didn't come from the world he was in, and it should have come from somewhere else. Chief God. It sounds like it is of a high level, but this God domain is just so weak. The legacy that Lin Fan had received was just a simple legacy of a master god. There was no boost of power, nor were there any benefits. It was the equivalent of a manual, and there was nothing else to be gained. After activating the Darkness God domain, everything became different. Although the Darkness God domain was empty, There was a bit more of a god aura around it. He sensed and realized that there were some threads that landed from above and connected to the palace. If his guesses were correct, this was faith. Aya, oh my god. Now that this cultivation wasn't over, he opened up a new cultivation system. Why didn't he just die? Did he really think that he was a cultivation maniac? He was someone who didn't like to cultivate. Despair, helplessness. Also, damn you. After leaving the darkness god domain, he opened his eyes and noticed that everyone was far away from him. What is going on with all of you? Lin Fan noticed that Zhu Shan was looking at him warily, and he was a little stunned. He just became a god in the darkness god domain. So why did all of them have such a huge reaction? Young Master Lin, just now you... Zhu Shan stuttered. What happened just now? Lin Fan didn't understand what he meant, as he didn't do anything. Zhu Shan sucked in a deep breath. Young Master Lin, just now a terrifying and dark aura exploded from your body. No, it wasn't a normal aura. It gave me a terrifying feeling. Although it disappeared in the blink of an eye, it really existed. I didn't dare to get close to you, and thought that something had happened to you. It is okay. I was just cultivating. There was nothing weird about it, Lin Fan said. But in his heart, he was thinking. It seemed like he had totally inherited the title of chief god of the darkness god domain and activated the little treasure. Not bad at all. Zhu Shan was helpless. He knew that young Master Lin wasn't telling the truth. What kind of cultivation could cause such a huge commotion? He wasn't bragging. To think that a stage 3 Dao realm powerhouse like Zhu Shan was almost suffocated by that aura just now. Just what kind of heaven-defying cultivation technique did he have to cultivate to have such might? Maybe he was just bragging. Lin Fan looked to the side. Mu Gang, who was massaging him, retreated into the distance. But the moment he looked, he couldn't shift his gaze away. He saw that there was a thin gray thread on her body that was connected to the darkness god domain. He thought about it and instantly understood. He was Mu Gang's master, and she was his maid. It seemed like this was faith. Mu Gang realized that young master's gaze was really invasive. She panicked. What was he doing? Was he going to attack her? She was so afraid. If Lin Fan knew what she was thinking, he would definitely roar. In the past, that might have been possible. But now that he was a chief god and had such a high status, how could he be so casual? Chapter 383. Lin Fan realized that the strength of the god domain was still really weak. It was obvious that he needed to collect faith to strengthen it. But it was a little problematic. How was he going to collect faith? With his ability to cause trouble, he didn't have any believers. Young Master, is there something wrong with me? Mu Gang asked nervously. Young Master Lin's gaze was a little off, and it made one terrified. Lin Fan shook his head and didn't say anything more. He realized that the darkness god domain could accept servants, and the lowest requirement was that they had to believe in him. Mu Gang met that requirement. Mu Gang, I can see the unwillingness in your eyes. You want to take revenge for Sky Moon Mountain, but you are too weak. As long as you believe in me, I can lend my strength to you. Lin Fan said. Zhu Shan's eyes opened wide, and his mouth was agape. He was totally stunned by young Master Lin's words. What was he saying? He didn't understand at all. Not only did Zhu Shan not understand, but even Cha Fu and the others were stunned. He was originally fine, but he suddenly said something that made people confused. Could it be that he was stimulated by something just now? Mu Gang looked at Lin Fan and was stunned for a long while. She was indeed filled with rage and unwillingness. She wasn't willing to forget about Sky Moon Mountain. I am willing to believe in young Master. Although she was really confused, she wanted to give it a try. Instantly, a mysterious power spread out from the god domain and wrapped around Mu Gang. At the same time, it formed a connection. Mu Gang became his servant, and at the same time, he could lend his strength to her. But Mu Gang's faith level was just too low. Mu Gang was originally only at Martial Path Grade 12, but at that moment, her cultivation bottleneck loosened and her cultivation rose to peak Master Realm. She directly crossed a huge realm. Zhu Shan was shocked and filled with disbelief. He was filled with shock. Mu Gang's cultivation wasn't much to him, but at that moment he realized that her cultivation had increased for no reason at all. That was just impossible. According to the standards of cultivation, it was completely impossible. He looked towards young Master Lin like he wanted an answer. Even with his Dao realm cultivation, it was tough for him to understand what was going on. So that was the case. The sovereign's legacy contained many strange abilities. Now, this was more like a contract. Moreover, he knew that some people would receive the blessing of a certain main god if they believed in it. However, many people did not receive the blessing of the main god, even if they believed in it. Clearly, they needed to consume their own power. It was to transmit one's own power, which was equivalent to weakening one's own divine power and lending it to others. Just now, he clearly felt that some of his strength had been borrowed. But because of the small support system, he didn't feel that way. He just wanted to say it. From the start till now, Mu Gang's expression was the same. She was shocked, and even she didn't expect this to happen. Lin Fan looked at Mu Gang's expression and shook his head. Your faith in me isn't high enough, so I can only raise it by so much. How much the other party could improve had a lot to do with how much they believed in him. Mu Gang could only be considered average. A true believer was one who only recognized his faith and did not recognize anyone else. So, Mu Gang was still far from it. I can become stronger? Mu Gang asked in shock. Lin Fan smiled. Yes, you can become stronger, but it all depends on you. There was no point in saying that. Even if Mu Gang said that she believed in him and that she would do whatever he told her to do, it was useless. The faith power that spread out from her body said it all. This was a change in her heart, and it was similar to brainwashing. Lin Fan felt really good. Based on this situation, if he got more believers, he would be able to form a believer battle team. Moreover, he had an endless supply of power. No matter how much he lent, it didn't affect him at all. Young Master Lin, what is going on? How did you do it? Zhu Shen couldn't take it anymore. He had lived for so many years and had never seen such a thing. It was just too magical. Lin Fan said, Zhu Shen, this is just a secret technique. It isn't much. Would Zhu Shen believe Lin Fan's words? Of course not. Young Master Lin was really unpredictable. In the past, he would definitely believe him, but since he got to know young Master Lin, he saw through young Master Lin's personality. When he asked important questions, he definitely wouldn't tell the truth. Zhu Shen didn't continue to ask. Anyway, it was pointless, so what was there to ask? Senior, can I do it? Jin Xiaobao walked in front of Lin Fan and asked softly. He was trash and didn't have much talent in cultivation. He just wanted to take a shortcut. Now that the shortcut was right in front of him, he wanted to try what it felt like to be an expert. Lin Fan looked at Jin Xiaobao. You can't. Your faith isn't enough. Jin Xiaobao was regretful. Till now, he still didn't understand what this so-called faith was. Su Furong looked at Mu Gang in envy. This woman was just too lucky to be able to improve so quickly. Also, he wanted to increase his strength, but he wouldn't say anything. I have never heard of it. It is just too magical. I have seen many weird things, but I have never seen such a thing. Chafu exclaimed. He was totally shocked by Lin Fan's actions. If he hadn't personally witnessed it, he wouldn't have believed anyone who told him such words. Did they treat him as a fool? Lin Fan said calmly. It isn't a rare ability, and it isn't useful at all. Cha Fu smacked his lips. If not for the fact that he couldn't beat Lin Fan, he would have scolded him in rage. If this was a useless ability, then what else was useful? People nowadays just knew how to act cool. It was a little difficult to develop believers. Even if he increased Mu Gang's strength, her faith didn't show any signs of increasing. Forget it. He would just use the small support system to increase his own strength. As for faith, he would just take it one step at a time. If he had a chance in the future, he would develop it. The Darkness Chief God's legacy wasn't a timely help, and it was just the icing on the cake. But the icing on the cake wasn't bad either. If he could get more believers who believed in him and borrow his strength, then in the future, there would be people who would do the work of beating people up. Mu Gang, don't just stand there. Continue the massage, and we will set off soon. Lin Fan instructed. Mu Gang's strength increased, and she was really happy. Yes, young master. Lin Fan closed his eyes and was attracted by the two purple lines of faith. This purple line of faith connected to the depths of space and spread into the distance. Who was it that was worshipping him? It should be Cousin Ngozi. My poor cousin left me, so he definitely wouldn't be able to find his way home. After all, I moved the mountain away, so it would be a miracle if he could find his way home. The outside world was a little dangerous, and Cousin was still weak, so he could only pass the power of the outside world to Cousin. As for the divine attendant recruitment ceremony, it was just a formality to make people feel more realistic. Power was transmitted along the purple line of faith. It was endless, and he could borrow a lot. As expected, it had a lot to do with the depth of faith. Maybe Cousin's faith had reached the highest level. Not long later, Lin Fan and the others continued their journey. Although they didn't have a goal, Lin Fan's goal was to find the Alliance and the top sections. What a thick stench of blood. Young Master Lin, we need to be careful. This place isn't safe. Zhu Shun's nose twitched and he sniffed around. The smell of blood surged towards his face and made him want to puke. It is best if we avoid this place. Zhu Shun thought about it and suggested for Lin Fan not to continue forwards. There was a city in front of them, but the sky above was covered in a thick blood mist. Many crows circled above, forming a really weird and terrifying scene. What are you afraid of? Didn't we come out to find the Alliance? Since something happened, then it definitely has something to do with someone. Lin Fan said. The stench of blood was really thick, and he also saw the phenomenon above the city. Although the Alliance was annoying, they shouldn't have been so cruel, right? Let's go. Lin Fan walked towards the city and wanted to see what was going on. Chafu wanted to say something, but he stopped. Although he wasn't strong, he didn't want to take the risk. But he had no choice. They were on the same boat, and since they were together, naturally, they had to help one another. Su Furong asked softly, Master, do you think we will die for no reason one day? Why would you have such a thought? Chafu looked at his disciple and really wanted to pry open his head to see what was going on in it. Did it have anything to do with death? Su Furong scratched his head. I am just a little worried. Look, since we followed them, the things we faced weren't good, and they were all filled with danger. Look more and speak less. Who knows what you were thinking about? Chafu scolded. Su Furong was helpless. He was just reminding them to be careful and pay attention to safety. He didn't mean anything else. City Gate. Biding City. Lin Fan raised his head and looked at the name carved on the tower. The city gate was tightly shut, and one couldn't see what was going on inside. But the blood on the gate meant that the situation inside wasn't that friendly. Kachi. Lin Fan pushed open the gate. Instantly, a thick corpse stench surged into his face. It was really sour and refreshing. Who is so vicious? He couldn't take it anymore. Even before entering the city, they could see dozens of corpses just by standing at the city gate and looking in. Lin Fan placed his finger on his nose. The smell was tough to resist, and he couldn't take it. These people have been dead for a period of time. Zhu Shun said. So smelly, so smelly. Su Furong waved his hands. His face was ashen white, and he was terrified by the scenes in front of him. He had never seen so many people die. Shut up. Chafu stared. It was just the smell of corpses, so why couldn't he take it? Although that was what he thought, he couldn't take it either. Chapter 384. Biding City. Lin Fan was speechless. He felt that he was cruel to his enemies, but he wasn't as vicious as these people. They really didn't leave even the chickens and dogs alive. Don't think that he was just exaggerating. Not far away, there was a chicken. A wooden stick was shoved into its mouth and then came out from its butt. It was okay if they were roasting it, but what was this? What cruel methods? Zhu Shun, you are really knowledgeable. Why don't you take a look at who did this? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shun walked in front of a corpse and looked at it carefully. He searched for injuries and also checked if he missed anything. Not long later, Zhu Shun returned to Lin Fan's side. Young Master Lin, I looked at a few corpses and realized that they didn't have any obvious injuries, but their bones were all shattered. An expert must have come here and used his aura to crush these commoners to death. But who would be so vicious? They're obviously experts, so why would they attack commoners? Zhu Shun felt that such actions were shameless. Experts had their own pride and definitely wouldn't kill innocent commoners. Apart from perverts, who else could it be? Let's head in and see if there are any clues left. Since we are free, let's do some justice. Lin Fan said. Along the way, he had nothing to do, and he only had 110,000 rage points. It was just too little, and he couldn't even raise a single Dao realm technique. He only had 74 Dao patterns, and that was just too little. If other people found out, they would definitely smash Lin Fan's head. If 74 wasn't enough, then how many would it be? Dao Realm was the final path of the martial path, and those who could become Dao Realm experts weren't ordinary people. To break from Domain Realm to Dao Realm, one needed at least 10 Dao patterns. When Lin Fan and the others were searching for clues in Biting City, Go Zi and Zhou Zhongmao's situation was different. Go Zi missed young master, but there was nothing he could do. His cultivation was too weak, and he could only stay on Martial Path Mountain to take care of Feng Poliu and his disciple, as well as Yuan Tianchu and Zhang Tianshan. In the kitchen, Go Zi held a kitchen knife and was about to chop the chicken into pieces to make soup. He raised the kitchen knife high up and heavily chopped down on the body of the chicken. Apart from the low chopping sound, there was nothing else. But just like that, when Go Zi's cleaver slashed down once more, it was different. A loud explosion rang out. The chopping board shattered into pieces, the floor cracked, and then the entire kitchen exploded, sending a thick cloud of dust into the air. Feng Poliu and the others heard the commotion and rushed over. When they saw the scenes, they were stunned. At the same time, he was wary of his surroundings. Could it be that someone had attacked them? But that was impossible. There was no movement around at all. Moreover, Zhang Tianshan laid out a formation, so he definitely wouldn't let people in so easily. In the ruins, Go Zi was so frightened that he fell to the ground. His throat moved and his forehead was covered in sweat. He was totally stunned as he looked at the cleaver in his hand and then at everything in front of him. "Doggy, are you still alive?" Zhang Tianshan asked. If Go Zi died, they would all starve. He was the best cook on Martial Path Mountain, so they definitely wouldn't be used to eating other people's dishes. Alive, Go Zi stuttered. He was frightened. He was just chopping a chicken. Why did it suddenly explode? Zhang Tianshan asked. What is going on? Why did it explode out of nowhere? No experts came to our side. I don't know. I was killing the chicken in the kitchen and was prepared to make chicken soup for all of you. It was fine at the start, but when I slashed it, Go Zi swallowed his saliva and panicked. He raised his hand and was prepared to show them what happened. But instantly, all of them were stunned. Go Zi waved his hand casually and a blade light surged into the sky, directly slicing another mountain in the middle. Hong Long Long. Looking at the scenes in front of him, Go Zi was stunned. He was about to cry. I really didn't do anything. I just don't move. Feng Poliu said right away. He couldn't chop anymore. If he continued, he would die. He walked forwards and stopped the cleaver in Go Zi's hand. He looked at the cleaver, and there was nothing wrong with it. It was just a normal cleaver, so the problem was with Go Zi. Damn it, that blade light was too terrifying. Even he was nearly frightened to death. How did Go Zi, who didn't know how to cultivate, suddenly become so strong? That was totally impossible. Go Zi, tell the truth. Did you eat anything or meet anyone recently? Feng Poliu asked. Go Zi shook his head. No, nothing at all. Feng Poliu frowned. That was weird. That shouldn't be the case. He didn't eat anything and suddenly had such terrifying strength. Did Go Zi have an amazing body? Or was he acting like a pig to eat a tiger? Did he show off today just to make them laugh? Yuan Tianchu hadn't made wild guesses in a long time. But when he saw Go Zi's blade, he was stunned. His brain started to think about random things. I understand. I finally understand. He realized that he had been played by Lin Fan. Go Zi, who he didn't care about in the past, was actually so terrifying. What did that mean? It meant that he was honest and didn't join in, otherwise his head would have been separated from his body. Zhang Tianshan directly ignored Yuan Tianchu. This kid was trash. Haze, Feng Poliu touched Go Zi's body. He didn't dare to probe. Go Zi's body was boiling with power, and if he tried, he might die. It is hard to say if it is a blessing or a curse. But you have such strength, but you don't know how to control it. That is a problem. I will teach you how to control it. Feng Poliu said. Go Zi wanted to cry. I don't want to become like this. I just want to cook. Can you let me return to normal? I am afraid. Feng Poliu was stunned as he looked at Go Zi. His expression was a little complicated, and he even wanted to die. He actually didn't want the power that other people wanted. Damn, was the gap between people really that big? Go Zi, you can't recover. You can only accept this power. Don't you want to protect your young master? You can do it now. Feng Poliu said. As expected, we heard that he could protect young master. Go Zi was energized. His fear was totally gone. Right, I can serve young master and protect him. That is great. Go Zi clenched his fists and felt really energized. With a crack, patterns appeared in the space like it was about to shatter. Stop! Feng Poliu hollered. Go Zi was so frightened that he released his hands. Damn! Feng Poliu wanted to know what Go Zi got. How did he become so terrifying? Just clenching his fists could shatter space. That was just so surreal. For Lin Fan to be able to use the faith of the darkness god domain to raise Go Zi's cultivation was really overpowered. Even chief gods couldn't bear to do that. After all, he was borrowing his own strength. If he lent it to others, it would mean that he would become weaker. But to Lin Fan, all of that didn't matter. Anyway, nothing changed. At this moment, Go Zi didn't dare to move anymore. Martial Path Mountain's future meals could only be left to Zhang Tianshan. With Go Zi's current situation, how could he cook? One blade and Martial Path Mountain might be wiped out. Within Biting City, Lin Fan and the others stood at the center of the city. Do you guys feel that something is wrong? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shan nodded. Yeah, I do feel that way. Both of their cultivations reached Dao Realm, and they were really sensitive to certain things. Chafu hadn't reached Dao Realm, so naturally, he wasn't as sensitive as them, but he could still sense something. It just made him feel a little uncomfortable. Young Master Lin, be careful. I feel like there is some hidden danger here. No one would kill a city for no reason unless they are really bored. Zhu Shan had been through so many things, but he had never seen anyone do that. Even the cruel ones like Monster Emperor had never massacred an entire city. Normally, he occupied land and made the commoners his servants. Suddenly, Zhu Shan realized that the situation wasn't right. In the hidden area, there was actually a lot of fresh blood that gathered together and flowed toward a certain place. Young Master Lin, look at this. I think I have found the problem, Zhu Shan said. Lin Fan walked forwards to take a look. He came to the center and punched the ground. With a kacha, the ground cracked and a deep hole appeared. Come out. Stop hiding there and acting mysterious. The hole was really dark, and one couldn't see what was inside. Chafu retreated with the disciples, and so did Mugang. If there was really an enemy below, then it would be really terrifying. At that moment, a dark and terrifying voice spread out from the deep hole. More people are here to die. Hung Long. A blood light surged into the sky and covered the entire deep hole. In the blink of an eye, the blood light dissipated. A red-robed male floated in the air. There was a bright red mark on his forehead, and he looked really devilish. If one didn't look closely, one would have thought that he was a girl who liked to wear red. Lin Fan felt really uncomfortable when he saw such a person. So what if he was a guy? He was neither a man nor a woman, and he even had black eyeliner. Damn, it made him want to vomit. Oi, I'm talking about you. You are neither a man nor a woman. You killed everyone here, right? I was wondering how someone could be so cruel. So, you're just so disgusting. I understand, now I understand. Lin Fan's gaze was filled with disdain. Kakik, you can say whatever you want. Anyway, you're gonna die, so what is there to be angry about? The red-robed male used his fingers to cover his lips and laughed. He actually looked a little charming. Damn. Zhu Shan frowned and felt that this person was familiar. But as he had lived in Yu City for so long, he couldn't recall who it was. But he was sure that he had seen this person before. Who was he? Suddenly, A thought flashed in Zhu Shun's mind, and he said, Hua Jinhai, how did you become like this? Chapter 385. The red-robed male was Hua Jinhai. He was stunned and a little stunned. This little wild boar that could only be eaten could actually speak. He could even call out his name. Who are you? With my status, how can I know an animal like you? Hua Jinhai frowned and was confused. He looked closely at the pig and still didn't recognize who he was. Zhu Shun was so infuriated by Hua Jinhai's words that he nearly exploded on the spot. Who are you calling an animal? Zhu Shun was furious. Since he turned into a pig, no one called him an animal. This fellow was the first. Hua Jinhai smiled. Of course, I'm talking about you. A pig that can speak is really magical and can even recognize me. I want to know what breed you are. Did you come from Insect Valley? Impossible. Even Insect Valley doesn't have that ability. Lin Fan stopped the furious Zhu Shun and asked, You know him? I do. He is from Xiedao sect. In the past, he wasn't like this and was normal. Who knew that he would actually turn into a monster that is neither a man nor a woman? Who knows what happened during these decades for him to actually become like this? Zhu Shun said. Hua Jinhai had been thinking about who he was, but he couldn't think of anything. Who the hell are you, you beast? You sound like you're familiar with me. Most of the people I know are dead, so I don't think so. Hua Jinhai said. Zhu Shun didn't want to tell Hua Jinhai who he was, but the moment he had such a thought, young Master Lin sold him out mercilessly. Zhu Shun, tell him who you are. Let's see whether or not he remembers you. Lin Fan said. There was no need to ask at all. His words told him that he was Zhu Shun. Now did he know? Hua Jinhai was stunned and then said in disbelief, You are Zhu Shun? He was stunned. How did a person turn into a pig for no reason? Hua Jinhai's constricted pupils opened up and then he laughed. I didn't expect Zhu Shun to really turn into a pig. I was wondering who it was, so it was you. I heard that you were beaten up by Lin Wani and thought that you would disappear. So, you came here and turned into such a person. Who was going to laugh at you? Pig? Very compatible, really very compatible. Hua Jinhai's laughter didn't infuriate Zhu Shun. His rage was just temporary. Yes, they're indeed a good match. But no matter how compatible they are, they're not a good match for you. You used to be a male chauvinist, but now you have become like this. You're even wearing a red robe. You look so feminine and disgusting. Zhu Shun was filled with disdain and didn't reply at all. He also wanted to know how he became like this. He and Hua Jinhai were considered half teammates in the past, and they did some shady things together. But in the end, they split up due to a small conflict. To put it bluntly, it was a conflict of interest. Zhu Shun wasn't as crazy as Hua Jinhai, and he just stopped one thing. Okay, what good does insulting me do for you? You're just a pig now. Whether or not you can leave this place alive is a problem. Hua Jinhai wanted to leave Zhu Shun here. Zhu Shun looked at Hua Jinhai. We were teammates in the past, so why are you so heartless? Kiki. Hua Jinhai smiled. In the past, you were still a human and I could give you face. Now, you're just a pig and I want to eat pork. Don't worry, I will pull out your lungs and liver and fry them all. How could Lin Fan allow them to continue talking here? This fellow's words are so nasty and you can even talk to him? Quick, kill him. He didn't have any thoughts about doing anything at all. Young Master Lin, what if? Zhu Shun knew Hua Jinhai's strength, especially since he had turned into a pig. His strength was affected and he might not be able to beat him, so he wanted to say something. But before he could say anything, Lin Fan interrupted him. Don't worry, if you can't beat him, I will help you. Lin Fan said calmly. Zhu Shun looked at Lin Fan. That wasn't what he wanted to say. He wanted to say that if he couldn't beat him, then he would flee. Lin Fan saw that Zhu Shun was stunned and said, Don't worry, nothing will happen. Zhu Shun was helpless. Young Master Lin couldn't understand what he meant. He raised his head and looked at Hua Jinhai. So many years have passed. Let me see how strong you are now. When a pig exploded, it was always so surprising. Zhu Shun and Hua Jinhai instantly clashed with one another. Looking at Hua Jinhai's situation, he should be from Xiedao sect's Blood Demon faction. Lin Fan had already faced many from the Blood Demon faction. Along with the two from before, this was the third. But compared to Zhu Shun, the first two were a little weaker. Zhu Shun's form wasn't that of a human, and he was restricted in some aspects. But to experts, even if they weren't in human form, they would still be able to overcome difficulties. I really didn't expect that I would fight a pig. But not bad, I didn't expect you to reach Dao Realm Stage 3. Hua Jianhai temporarily suppressed Zhu Shun. The battle between the man and the pig was really intense. Biting City was shaking and many houses collapsed. The ripples weren't something that normal people could block. Cha Fu and the others were filled with despair towards such a battle. It wasn't something they could block at all. Too strong. Cha Fu was already old, and he always felt that he was quite strong. But since he met Lin Fan and the others, he felt like his view of the world had collapsed and changed. The people he faced were either Dao Realm experts or sick in the head. Who would take that? At that moment, Zhu Shun was about to explode from his body. Damn, it was just so inconvenient. Just 4 pig trotters were enough for him. Moreover, his body was really small and his hooves were shorter. That was just so awkward. If he was in human form and held a machete, he would definitely chop this bastard to death. Zhu Shun, forget it. Don't you realize how stupid you look now? Hua Jianhai smiled and didn't care about Zhu Shun at all. Suddenly, Hua Jianhai sensed something behind him. He turned around and didn't expect that kid to actually appear behind him. Lin Fan punched. It was a sneak attack, but unfortunately, it didn't succeed. He retreated right away. Zhu Shun, slice him up. Hua Jianhai was furious and wanted to slice Lin Fan to death. But the moment he had such a thought, Zhu Shun struck. The man and pig clashed once more. Rage points plus 999. Decent numbers. Although Lin Fan was just one person and the numbers were limited, he wouldn't waste any at all. Thinking back to when he was accumulating rage points from dozens of rage points, Hua Jianhai's vital energy rumbled and half the sky was covered in a blood ocean. Zhu Shun died. Hua Jianhai pressed down with his palms. The yin-yang 5-element reverse light shot forwards. Xiao! Hua Jianhai felt a sharp sword intent strike him from behind. He slapped with one palm and smashed the sword intent. Damn! Who sneak attacked him? You kid. Hua Jianhai didn't expect this kid to sneak attack him, and that infuriated him. But just as he wanted to kill Lin Fan once more, Zhu Shun broke through the reversed yin-yang 5 elements and stepped down with one hoof. Rage points plus 999. Lin Fan loved such battles. He would occasionally attack and earn some rage points. Zhu Shun, kill him. He didn't like to fight. Zhu Shun was quite strong. Even if he turned into a pig and was restricted, he could still fight with Hua Jianhai. That was enough to show that if he hadn't turned into a pig, with Zhu Shun's strength, he could have chopped Hua Jianhai into a fool. The battle continued. Lin Fan watched with great interest as well. Shidao sect was really amazing. He heard that Shidao sect was created by a disciple of Yin-Yang sect, and now it could become a top sect. How strong was this disciple? At the same time, how strong was Yin-Yang sect? He really didn't dare to imagine, but it was hard to say. Maybe that disciple was really talented and strong. He felt that it was a waste of his talent to stay in Yin-Yang sect, which was why he decided to create his own sect. There was a high possibility. Hua Jianhai wasn't weak. He was at Dao Realm Stage 3, and his position in Shidao sect definitely wasn't low. No matter where one was, Dao Realm cultivation was really shocking. To a mid-tier sect, such cultivation was enough for him to be a sect leader. As the battle continued to explode, Zhu Shun found it tough. Hua Jianhai was really strong. If he hadn't turned into a pig, he wouldn't have ended up like this. But now, he really couldn't take it anymore. Pung! Hua Jianhai hollered, and a terrifying power exploded, causing the space around to sink. Zhu Shun suffered a heavy blow and was smashed to the ground. Zhu Shun, how are you going to fight me now? With your current size? Stop dreaming, Hua Jianhai said in disdain. Zhu Shun came out from the deep hole and looked at Hua Jianhai. If my body hadn't changed, I would have killed you long ago. Kiki, who doesn't know how to brag. I want to say that if I didn't become like this, would you even have the chance to become a pig? Hua Jianhai was the winner, so naturally, he was really overbearing. When he spoke, he straightened his back. Suddenly, Hua Jianhai sensed the fierce intent behind him, and his expression became really ugly. He turned his head. "Kid, I have tolerated you until now, and you still want to—" Before he finished, Hua Jianhai was stunned. Hua Jianhai was stunned. The situation wasn't right. Lin Fan's aura was at its peak as his eyes shone with a ferocious gleam. That fist of his contained an unbelievable amount of power. Pung! The fist landed. The space shook. A shocking explosion reverberated throughout the area. There was a loud explosion. Hua Jianhai smashed into the ground, causing it to crack and dust to rise up. Lin Fan blew on his fist and extinguished it. "Why did I ask you to bear with it? I was just playing and you treated it so seriously." "Oi, Zhu Shun, what is going on with you? You don't even have confidence in such a person?" Zhu Shun felt really awkward. "Young Master Lin, your words were just too much. You said that he was such a person. But if I can't even beat him, then what kind of person should I be?" Chapter 386. What is going on? Hua Jianhai, who was smashed into the deep hole, was stunned. Till now, he still hadn't reacted. The kid that he ignored was actually so strong. He was too careless. He was really too careless. Damn. Rage appeared on Hua Jianhai's face. He held onto the ground with one hand and raised his head. He stared at Lin Fan in rage, and a thick, vengeful energy surged out. "Kid, you are asking to die." He was furious. Zhu Shan was suppressed by him, and he felt really good. But shortly after, the kid punched him. He wanted to finish him off, but who knew that the fist would be so strong? He couldn't block it at all, and was smashed to the ground. But to think that he could defeat him like that was just wishful thinking. "Young Master Lin, be careful," Zhu Shan reminded. He was really annoyed. Hua Jianhai was actually able to suppress him. That was an insult. Although he had turned into a pig, was that a reason for him to lose? Lin Fan said, "Zhu Shun, just watch from the side. I will deal with this fellow. You have some ability, and even Zhu Shun can't do anything to you." Interesting. Zhu Shun felt that young Master Lin was saying that he was a little weak. If he hadn't turned into a pig and his body wasn't affected, Hua Jianhai wouldn't have jumped around. He would have killed him with one blade. "Kiki kid, I was just careless. What do you think you can do to me?" Hua Jianhai said in disdain, but his heart was really solemn. He didn't dare to underestimate Lin Fan at all. Just the strength of that fist alone couldn't be underestimated. Where did this fellow come from? But he didn't care so much anymore. The blood energy around Hua Jianhai boiled, and a red blood light covered the sky. One could see a corpse demon giving off a ferocious aura within the blood light. "Yeah, I won't do anything to all of you, but I will beat you up so badly that you cry." Lin Fan smiled. At that moment, Lin Fan raised his hand, and the sword merged. In the blink of an eye, a giant sword that gave off a bright light appeared. Dao patterns wrapped around it, and it slashed towards Hua Jianhai. Damn! Hua Jianhai was stunned, and felt that Lin Fan's strategy was a little off. He hollered, and the corpse demon in the blood ocean roared. A pair of giant hands struck towards Lin Fan. Bang! When the sword struck the corpse demon's body, a dazzling radiance burst out. At the same time, a dull and extremely impactful ripple spread out. Lin Fan's sword Dao was known for its magnificence. In the past, it was naturally filled with sword wheels that filled the skies. With a single push of his palm, 10,000 swords would fly out and destroy the entire world. But now, perhaps this was what it meant to return to simplicity. The Great Tao was the simplest. The sword will condense together and formed a long sword. Driven by force, it directly killed all the people in front of it. Kill! Lin Fan burst forth with his strongest power. Waving the long sword in his hand, he pierced through the heaven and earth and slashed out. Rumble! The demonic corpse was slashed into pieces, and the long sword that Lin Fan had condensed was also shattered. Damn, how is this fellow so strong? Hua Jianhai was stunned. If he hadn't personally experienced it, he wouldn't have believed it. At this moment, His sword shattered, giving Hua Jianhai a chance to breathe. But shortly after, the situation changed. Just as he was about to rage, another shocking aura struck down from above his head. Lin Fan felt like one wasn't enough, so he formed two swords, one in each hand. He slashed at Hua Jianhai. Hua Jianhai panicked and wanted to curse. But now wasn't the time for him to think about all that. A light screen appeared above his head, directly blocking Lin Fan's attack. Pung! The explosion shook the heavens and earth. The sword intent surged forwards and tore the space apart. Hua Jianhai felt a terrifying and unstoppable power pressing down on his body. With a pung, he knelt to the ground. The sword intent pressed down on Hua Jianhai's body and then pierced through the ground, tearing it apart. Poochie! Hua Jianhai couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. Many cracks appeared on his body. How is that possible? He looked at Lin Fan in disbelief. How was his strength so terrifying? I will die. No, I have to go. Hua Jianhai realized that he would definitely die if he stayed. This kid was just too strong. Wait and see. I will come back for you. The moment he said this, Hua Jianhai tore open the space and was prepared to enter the dimension to escape. Lin Fan frowned. He was only at Dao Realm Stage 1 and was annoyed by techniques that only Stage 2 people could use. But shortly after, he knew that there were no problems. Zhu Shan hollered. His pig legs landed and he stepped on the dimension that Hua Jianhai opened up. Young Master Lin told you to stay, so don't think about leaving. Zhu Shan said. Damn. Hua Jianhai's gaze towards Zhu Shan was filled with rage. What a dog. He had already turned into a pig, and he still wanted to cause trouble. Suddenly, Hua Jianhai felt that things weren't right, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. The aura that spread from behind him was a little terrifying. Stop looking. To you, I am the most terrifying one. Lin Fan appeared in front of Hua Jianhai and punched. He didn't give him a chance to react at all. Wait, there was a low explosion. To Hua Jianhai, it was like he had suffered a heavy blow. All the bones in his body were about to explode. There was a pung. Hua Jianhai was smashed deep into the ground by Lin Fan's fist. Cha Fu looked at the scenes in front of him and was shocked. A battle of such a level wasn't something that he could fight. If he was the one fighting, maybe he would have been killed in the first round. Zhu Shan was amazing, but he realized that young Master Lin was even more terrifying. Mu Gang was shocked too. She had never seen someone like young Master Lin. He was so young but so terrifyingly strong. She thought back to what her father told her. It was already heaven-defying for someone in the younger generation to reach Grandmaster realm. But now, she really wanted to ask, what did it mean to cultivate to such a realm? Lin Fan realized that after he activated the Darkness God domain, each time he attacked, he would bring along the aura of a chief god. Although it was really weak, it did exist. Biding City, which was originally perfectly fine, was destroyed in this battle. It was torn apart and many houses collapsed. But there was nothing he could do about it. Lin Fan and Hua Jianhai's battle belonged to a battle between Dao Realm experts. The ripples that leaked out weren't something that a city could handle. Oi, are you dead? Lin Fan shouted towards the deep hole. It was so quiet that there was no sound at all, but there was a familiar aura that exploded out from the deep hole. This seems like the aura of the Blood Demon reversal technique. Lin Fan had already raised the Blood Demon reversal technique to the highest realm, which was the Dao Wheel. But Hua Jinhai's aura was still a little weak and wasn't as strong as he was. Kiki. Instantly, a cold laugh spread out from the deep hole. Hua Jinhai, who was wearing a red robe, floated out from the hole. His body was covered in fresh blood, which dyed his robe red. He was badly injured and was on the verge of death from Lin Fan's beating. Kid, don't be too arrogant. To me, your attacks are useless. Hua Jianhai knew that he couldn't escape. Zhu Shan was staring aggressively from the side, and it was impossible for him to leave through the dimension tunnel. So, there was one other way. He would use his own strength to suppress Lin Fan. Is that so? You are so confident? Lin Fan smiled. Hua Jianhai looked at Lin Fan. I am someone that you can't kill. Now, I will let you see how I recover. As long as I injure you, you will die. Instantly, A mysterious power exploded from Hua Jianhai's body, and his injuries instantly healed. To Hua Jianhai, his heart hurt. This was something that he had accumulated for a long time. Now that he used it here, he felt really sad. Zhu Shen frowned. Hua Jianhai, who was badly injured, recovered right away. All his injuries disappeared. This skill, haha, Hua Jianhai laughed out loud. Do you see this? This is my ability. You beat me up so badly, but to me, it doesn't matter. That is because I can recover anytime. Master, he was so badly injured. So how did he recover so quickly? Su Furong asked in shock. What kind of monster was this person? Was he really unkillable? Cha Fu's expression was solemn. He didn't understand how he did it, but it was impossible for him to be unkillable. This should be some sort of secret technique. He could only guess like that. If not, he really couldn't think of how he did it. Ha ha, Lin Fan laughed. When he saw Hua Jianhai say such arrogant words, he couldn't help but laugh. Damn, did people nowadays like to act cool? Moreover, he even treated him like a retard. What are you laughing at? Hua Jianhai chided in rage. His gaze was dark and cold. What am I laughing at? I'm laughing at how you really know how to act. Okay, since you like to act so much, then I will act with you. Lin Fan raised his hand and gathered sword intent. Under Hua Jianhai's confused gaze, he stabbed the sword intent into his chest. Huh? When Hua Jianhai saw this, he was stunned. His mind was in a mess, and he didn't understand what was going on. Was Lin Fan sick in the head? Why was he hurting himself? Young Master Lin, Zhu Shen exclaimed. He was stunned and didn't know what young Master Lin was doing. Why was he stabbing himself? Lin Fan pulled out the sword intent, and fresh blood flowed out. Are you dumb? Hua Jianhai rarely cursed, as it didn't match his aura. But now, he really couldn't take it. He had never seen such a dumb person. But suddenly, Hua Jianhai's expression froze. His pupils constricted like he had seen a ghost. The kid's wound actually healed. You? Hua Jianhai pointed at Lin Fan and retreated. His face was filled with disbelief. It was like he had thought about something really terrifying. Lin Fan said in disdain, What? Isn't it just the blood demon reversal technique? You make it sound like it's something. I heard that you can't die, right? I will cripple you, and then you can do it again. Come on. Hua Jianhai wanted to run. Where did this person come from? He actually knew the secret technique of Shidao Sect's blood demon faction. Chapter 387. When the thought of fleeing appeared in his mind, he couldn't get rid of it anymore. But how the hell could he run away? There was a tiger in front and a pig behind. They weren't people that he could offend. Lin Fan's smile was a little bright, but to Hua Jianhai, it was a little dark and terrifying. It sent a chill down his spine. How do you know the blood demon reversal technique? Are you from Shidao Sect? Why haven't I seen you before? No, to be able to cultivate the blood demon reversal technique, you definitely aren't a normal disciple. Did you meet someone from Shidao Sect? Are you his direct disciple? I am the deputy head of Shidao Sect's blood demon faction. Maybe we are on the same side. The more Hua Jianhai thought about it, the more likely it was. Shidao Sect's secret technique wouldn't be given to others so casually. In the end, it would be a huge misunderstanding if it turned out that they were on the same side. Of course, if it was someone he was familiar with, then he would remember this grudge. If his position was low, then he would teach him a lesson. If his position was high, then he would forget about it. Who is on the same side as you? Don't think too much. As for the background of this technique, it isn't much. I met a Shidao Sect fellow, and I smashed him. I got it from him. But really, this technique is not bad, and I like it. As for you acting cool in front of me, don't you feel that your face hurts? Lin Fan looked at Hua Jianhai, whose expression was getting a little weird, and he was delighted. Zhu Shen was shocked. From young Master Lin and Hua Jianhai's conversation, he understood. Young Master Lin was a skilled person. He even learned Shidao Sect's secret technique. Talent, or rather, a genius. Hua Jianhai's hands and feet felt cold. He turned his head and said, Zhu Shen, we were teammates in the past. Do you remember that one time? Don't try to get close to me. I'm just a pig. I don't dare to get close to you. Zhu Shun interrupted his words. Kiki, now he was afraid. What were you doing before? Especially when he said that he wanted to eat roast pig. If he could tolerate this, even the heavens would not forgive him. Hua Jianhai felt like he was trapped in his own trap. If his attitude was better, he might have been able to get close to Zhu Shan, but he couldn't be blamed for this. After so many years, his cultivation path was smooth, and he reached Dao Realm Stage 3. He felt like he was an expert. His position in Xiedao sect wasn't low, lower than the hall leader, sect leader, and some special elders. He had long since looked down on ordinary people. But now, the situation wasn't right. If he continued to be stubborn, the consequences would be unimaginable. Kiki, Zhu Shun, what are you saying? Do we even need to talk about our relationship? I was just joking. Think about how happy we were in the past. Can you forgive me? Hua Jianhai said. He used the blood demon reversal technique in front of Lin Fan to scare them. He wanted to let them know that all their efforts were in vain. No matter how injured they were, he could recover instantly. However, the other party also knew this move and even saw through it, so he couldn't pretend anymore. Zhu Shen looked at Hua Jianhai. Hua Jianhai's expression was friendly, and he was reminiscing. He hoped that he could help Zhu Shen remember their past friendship. Hey, forget it. I will forgive you. After all, who doesn't make mistakes? Zhu Shen said. Hua Jianhai was so touched that he was about to cry. Pig pong. Before he finished, Lin Fan punched him once more. Dao essence along with Dao body was really strong. Collapsing Biting City with one punch was a small matter. Now, the power of this punch landed on Hua Jianhai's body. How long? Hua Jianhai felt like his body was about to explode. Blood boiled in his body, and he couldn't help but spit it out. Zhu Shan, he shouted with his mouth covered in blood. He hoped that Zhu Shan could help. If this went on, he would die. Zhu Shan said helplessly, I did forgive you, but if he doesn't, then there is nothing I can do. You. Hua Jianhai was about to explode. He hollered in rage. You jerk, you actually played me. Lin Fan landed in front of the sea of flowers, reached out his hand, grabbed his head, and lifted him up. I heard that you can't die. Continue to recover for me to see. Rage points plus 999 fresh blood seeped out of the corner of Hua Jianhai's eyes as he stared right at Lin Fan. He retracted his fierce gaze, and what replaced it was gentleness. Little brother, I am friends with Zhu Shan, so there is no need for you to kill me, right? Moreover, I am the deputy head of Xiedao Sect's Blood Demon faction, and I have some status. If I die, it will have a huge impact on you. It will affect you badly too. What happened today is my fault. Just treat it as a fart and let it go. What do you think? Hua Jianhai didn't want to die. He cultivated to such a stage, which meant that he wasn't a fool. He was also really talented. If he died just like that, it wouldn't be worth it. Although it was shameful to admit defeat now, it was more important to stay alive. What was the saying? Please shout it out. You look really bad when you admit defeat, but you look really handsome when you are alive. I remember what you did today. As long as you don't die, you will be able to turn the tables in the future. This was the furious roar in Hua Jianhai's heart. I don't want to let it go. Lin Fan said. Hua Jianhai looked at how heartless Lin Fan was and knew that things were about to end. There was a punk. Hua Jianhai bore with the pain on his body and pulled some distance away from Lin Fan. He stared at Lin Fan in rage. Do you really want to force me to my death? It won't do you any good. Maybe you don't know how terrifying Xiedao sect is, but when you do, it will be too late. Lin Fan smiled. You are right. I have killed many people from Xiedao sect, but they didn't do anything at all. If killing you can attract their attention, that would be a good choice. Hua Jianhai understood that there was no turning back. It was obvious that Lin Fan wanted to kill him. Stand still and don't move. Lin Fan took in a deep breath. Power boiled and gathered. He was prepared to punch Hua Jianhai to death with one fist. Zhu Shun, can you not stop me if I leave? Hua Jianhai hollered. He really wanted to run, but he ripped open the dimension and Zhu Shun stepped on it. Even if he wanted to leave, there was nothing he could do. I can't. I just want to stop you out of habit. Zhu Shun replied. He knew what Hua Jianhai's personality was like. especially when he saw how he dressed up and his cultivation techniques. He was a little vicious. If he was left alive, he would be a problem. Hua Jinhai had no way out. This kid was a little fierce. What should he do? What should he do? He was totally lost and didn't know what to do. Should he go all out? That was the worst-case scenario. But what could he use to fight him? Suddenly, Lin Fan disappeared in front of him. Hua Jinhai's pupils constricted. A sense of danger descended upon him. Death was about to descend upon him. Damn, I'm going all out against you. Pung. Hua Jinhai didn't move, but his expression changed. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. Fresh blood flowed out. Lin Fan punched Hua Jinhai's chest. A terrifying power exploded and surged forwards. How did this happen? Hua Jinhai lowered his head in disbelief. It was too quick, and he couldn't react at all. Lin Fan scoffed and slapped toward Hua Jinhai's face. He didn't touch his face, and his palm was a little away from it. Shortly after, a strong shockwave exploded. Hua Jinhai's face changed. Instantly, Lin Fan clenched his fingers, and an invisible sharp blade extended from each of his fingers. With a puchi, Hua Jinhai's head was smashed into pieces. It is over. Lin Fan shook his head regretfully. What a waste. This fellow was still a little weak. How terrifying. Su Furong looked on with his mouth agape. He was in a daze. Lin Fan's methods had completely stunned him. Young Master Lin, are you okay? Zhu Shen asked. Hua Jinhai's death didn't affect him much. He felt like everything was normal. He just felt a little regretful. After all, Hua Jinhai was his teammate in the past. Although he wasn't much, he was quite strong. Now, he died just like that. If he died in the Resistance Alliance, he would be a hero. As for now, he was just a coward. What can happen? He is too weak. The difference in strength between stages isn't huge. The biggest change should be that he can comprehend special techniques. Lin Fan said calmly. His heart slowly became clear. With his current cultivation, it wasn't hard for him to kill Stage 3 experts. If it was a weaker Stage 3 expert, it would be really simple. Moreover, Hua Jinhai didn't have many Dao patterns. He only had around 38. He could only be considered a mid-tier Dao realm expert. Stage 1 was to form Dao patterns. Stage 2 was to control dimension. Stage 3 was yin-yang 5 elements. There wasn't anything shocking about these 3 stages. But above Stage 3, the gap was huge. Stage 4 was astronomical phenomenon of heaven and earth, which allowed people who cultivated to such a realm to have a huge increase in overall strength. As for Stage 5, there was no need to talk about it. No wonder he was beaten up so badly in U City that he couldn't fight back at all. Young Master Lin, let's leave. He is the deputy head of Xiedao Sect's Blood Demon faction, and his position isn't low. Xiedao Sect should know that he has fallen. If we continue to stay here, we might face more enemies. Zhu Shun said. Lin Fan nodded. At that moment, Zhu Shun walked in front of Hua Jinhai's corpse. He stepped on it, and the dimension appeared. Lin Fan looked on in confusion. What was Zhu Shun doing? But shortly after, he realized that Zhu Shun actually took out some things from the dimension. Zhu Shun, what's going on? Lin Fan asked. There were no storage rings here, so there weren't any cases of people picking up corpses. However, the current scene was a little shocking. Zhu Shun said. He just died and the dimension started to collapse. We can take out his things, but after a period of time, the dimension will collapse and there will be nothing left. His cultivation is not bad, so he definitely has good things. We can take them. Lin Fan was shocked. He was really interested in this. Teach me later. Zhu Shun said. Young Master Lin, you might not be able to do it. You need to be at Stage 2, Dao Realm Dimension Control. You're only at Stage 1, so you won't be able to enter the dimension that other people opened up. Damn, Lin Fan was helpless. This really made him feel sad. It seemed like he had to work hard to get close to Stage 2. Mu Gang was stunned by the battle and was still a little stunned. Only when Lin Fan told her to leave did she come back to her senses. Fighting City was already a dead city. Now that Lin Fan and Hua Jinhai's battle had destroyed it, it was totally useless. What did you get? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shan said, "Not bad. I didn't expect him to have so many good things. But the most precious thing is this pill. If I'm not wrong, this is a Tao pattern pill. If one eats it, one can gain one Tao pattern. I didn't expect Hua Jianhai to have such a good thing." Lin Fan looked at the Tao pattern pill and found it weird. This fellow has such a good thing, but he didn't use it. Why is he keeping it? Young Master Lin, there is something you don't know. Although the Tao pattern pill is precious, not everyone is suitable for it. He probably knows that it isn't suitable for him, so he wants to exchange it with someone else. But the Tao pattern pill is too precious, and very few people have it. Moreover, the quality of the Tao pattern pill isn't good, so maybe he is considering it. Zhu Shan said. Lin Fan felt that the Tao pattern pill wasn't much, and the power it contained was a little weak. It was much weaker than the Tao patterns that he cultivated. Maybe to other people, being able to increase one Tao pattern was a really good thing. Why would they care so much? People like Lin Fan, who used the small support system to raise techniques and condense Tao patterns, couldn't imagine how painful and tragic it was for other people to condense Tao patterns. One Tao pattern was to cultivate a technique to the return to true realm and then condense it. But there were some who didn't cultivate it to the return to true realm, but those were just inferior goods. However, even if he was a genius, his energy was limited. How could they cultivate so many Tao patterns? This was why the Tao pattern pill was a good thing. But what a waste. The requirements to condense the Tao pattern pill were really high. Also, who would be willing to extract the Tao patterns that they had spent so much effort to cultivate? Of course, the quality of the Tao pattern pill wasn't high, and it should have been condensed before reaching the return to true realm. Young Master Lin, you should consume it. Zhu Shan said. Lin Fan was filled with disdain. Why would I consume it? A lousy Tao pattern pill is just insulting me. You should consume it. Then, I will consume it. I'm not afraid of being insulted. Zhu Shan said. Okay, looking at you, I know that you want to consume it. Why are you still acting? Just consume it. Lin Fan shook his head. People nowadays just couldn't face their true selves. If they wanted to consume it, then so be it. Why do they have to act like this? Zhu Shan was delighted and swallowed the Tao pattern pill into his body. A lousy product was just a lousy product, but it was better than nothing. Instantly, the Tao pattern pill exploded with shocking power. Zhu Shan needed to suppress it and slowly refine it. This Tao pattern pill would take at least half a month to refine. If he was too anxious, there would be side effects. Cha Fu's eyes turned red. He couldn't consume it, but he was really envious. The golden belt of murder and arson was indeed the only way to get rich. Lin Fan looked at Cha Fu's envious expression and turned his head. Don't be envious. As long as you follow us, you will definitely be able to enter Tao realm. Grasp the chance and don't say that I didn't bring you along. Senior Lin, what about me? Zhen Xiaobao asked. Lin Fan took a look and shook his head. You are too weak, but that is okay. Performance is the most important. If you perform well, then everything will be fine. Senior Lin, don't worry. I will definitely perform well. You are my idol, and I want to be as amazing as you. Zhen Xiaobao wasn't smart, but he knew how to suck up to Lin Fan. Moreover, he was really direct and didn't try to hide anything at all. Lin Fan realized that faith was appearing from Zhen Xiaobao's body. Although it was really weak, it was indeed faith. Not bad. This fellow had some ability. If he strengthened his faith, he would be able to achieve great things. Su Furong whispered to his master, Master, look at Junior Brother. Look at him. He has totally lost your face. Cha Fu didn't say anything. If he wasn't so old and thin-skinned, he would have wanted to do that too. Cha Fu stared at Su Furong in rage. Learn from your Junior Brother. You're just a tabloid. You have no future. Su Furong was stunned. Master, what was going on? Xiaodao's sect. Hua Jianhai had just died, and they knew about it. As the deputy of Xiaodao's sect's blood demon faction, his status was really high. Now that he died outside, it had a huge impact. Deputy Hall Leader Hua is dead. When this news spread out, it caused an uproar. Many people were filled with disbelief. But the broken blood man was enough to prove everything, and there was definitely no surprise. The Blood Demon faction's Palace Master was a mass of red mist. No one knew what the Palace Master's true form looked like, but everyone knew that although it was a mass of red mist, it was a terrifying existence. In the main hall, Blood Demon faction had a total of 4 deputy hall leaders, and now only 3 were left. They didn't expect Hua Jinhai to die. Hall leader. Who dares to kill the deputy hall leader? Is it the Alliance? A deputy hall leader asked. Their Blood Demon faction was one of the top 3 factions in Shidao sect. They were strong and had many disciples, which was why they were top. But now that a deputy hall leader had died, it had a huge impact on their faction. There is no need to think about it. Let me take a look. A ball of blood mist opened his mouth. At that moment, a light screen appeared in front of everyone. The scenes were of Hua Jianhai when he died. Everyone looked at the screen, at the face that made them angry. Damn, this kid killed Hua Jianhai. That can't be. He looks so young. So how can he have such strength? Hua Jinhai is Dao Realm Stage 3, so how can he be killed so easily? The deputy hall leaders were shocked. It was obvious that they didn't believe it. They looked towards the hall leader and waited for his decision. The hall leader looked at Lin Fan and was in deep thought. It was obvious that he was attracted by Lin Fan. Hall leader, what should we do now? Someone asked. The hall leader said, find this kid and bring him back. I'm very interested in him. Yes. The deputy hall leaders knew that the hall leader was interested in this kid. Although their Blood Demon faction didn't need cauldrons to cultivate, if a good one appeared, they would still try it out. Just at that moment, the scenes in front of them disappeared. The hall leader opened his mouth. Monster Emperor came from afar. So why did you come here? The 3 deputy hall leaders frowned. Monster Emperor was really famous. He worked with the Alliance to destroy Maigu City. One could say that if not for him, Maigu City wouldn't have been broken through so easily. Instantly, a low explosion spread from outside. Monster Emperor descended from the sky. His giant body landed on the ground, and the surrounding tiles all shattered. Blood Demon, let me borrow something from you. Monster Emperor was really fat, and the entrance was a little small. He grabbed and tore a hole at the entrance to allow his fat to squeeze in. One of the deputy hall leaders saw how arrogant Monster Emperor was and couldn't take it anymore. He scolded, Monster Emperor, this is Shidao sect. You can't behave so arrogantly here. Monster Emperor was 4 to 5 meters tall when he stood up. The fat on his stomach was especially terrifying. He lowered his head and smiled. Small thing. Damn. The deputy hall leader was furious. He had never seen such an arrogant person, and he couldn't help but attack. Pung. Monster Emperor smacked the deputy hall leader to the side like he was swatting a fly. He smashed the wall and instantly disappeared. The other 2 deputy hall leaders were shocked. It was obvious that they didn't expect Monster Emperor to be so terrifying. Monster Emperor, is this the attitude you show when you come to borrow something? Blood Mist said. Monster Emperor said, isn't my attitude good? But there was a fly flying around in front of me, and it gave me a headache. The deputy hall leaders' faces were a little ugly. Being called a fly was an insult to them, but they had no choice. They were too weak, and Monster Emperor gave them too much pressure. They weren't his match at all. Okay, what do you want to borrow? Blood Demon asked. Monster Emperor said, I want to borrow the Blood King Demon Tripod. The deputy hall leaders frowned. The Blood King Demon Tripod was their Blood Demon faction's treasure. Did Monster Emperor think that they were easy to bully? As long as the deputy hall leader instructed them, they would attack right away. Monster Emperor didn't say anything and just waited. A long while later. Okay, I can lend it to you, but you have to help me do something. Blood Demon said. Haha. Monster Emperor laughed. Okay, everyone knows that I love to work with others. Okay, no problem. No matter what it is, I can help you solve it. Bring Monster Emperor to the Blood King Demon Tripod. Blood Demon said. The deputy hall leader accepted the order and brought Monster Emperor to the Blood King Demon Tripod. To Blood Demon, he trusted Monster Emperor. Although Monster Emperor was weird and temperamental, he would do what he promised. Since that kid could kill Hua Jianhai, It meant that he wasn't weak. If he sent them, they might not have been able to take him down. But if Monster Emperor attacked, it would be different. Monster Emperor used the Blood King Demon tripod to refine that blood pearl. Not bad. Not bad. It really is a treasure with amazing effects. Monster Emperor praised. At the same time, he was looking forward to how strong the mother's blood would be after it was refined. A few hours later, under the refinement of the Blood King Demon tripod, the fist-sized blood pearl became the size of a fingernail. This blood pearl gave off a purple glow. Good item. Monster Emperor swallowed the purple blood. At that moment, thick veins appeared on his body like there was something moving about. The deputy hall leader, who was wary of Monster Emperor, felt terrified. What kind of monster was that? In the main hall, Blood Demon, thank you for your help. Speak, what do you want? Monster Emperor asked. Blood Demon showed the scenes from before once more. It is him. I want him to come to me alive. When Monster Emperor saw those scenes, he laughed out loud. This kid is amazing. Okay, no problem. Qian Wang, follow Monster Emperor. Remember, if you can't catch him, then don't come back. Blood Demon said. Yes, Hall Leader, I will complete your mission. Qian Wang knelt down on one knee. Monster Emperor said eagerly, Let's go. It is just a small matter. Qian Wang followed Monster Emperor and was a little nervous. After all, Monster Emperor was famous, and if he made him unhappy, the outcome would be catastrophic. Very quickly, the two of them left the main hall. Blood Demon was furious. Monster Emperor's actions infuriated him. There was no one who dared to behave so arrogantly here, and Monster Emperor was the first. It wasn't that he didn't want to teach Monster Emperor a lesson, but Monster Emperor was a lunatic and it wasn't worth it. After all, no one knew what would happen next. Forget it. He would give Monster Emperor face, as long as he could bring the kid back. In the air, Qian Wang followed behind Monster Emperor and didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say to Monster Emperor. Following behind such a dangerous person was a form of danger. Actually, he didn't want to come, but he had no choice. Since the hall leader said so, what else could he say? Do you know the kid's name? Monster Emperor suddenly opened his mouth. Qian Wang was stunned and then said, I don't know. Kiki. Monster Emperor's smile was a little dark and sunken. It made Qian Wang a little nervous, like something was about to happen. I know. Qian Wang looked at Monster Emperor in shock and didn't know what he meant. Pada! Monster Emperor stopped, and his thick palm landed on Qian Wang's shoulder. He said, I am familiar with him, and he is someone I respect. If you want to harm him, it will be tough for me. But everyone knows that I am a man of my word. As long as we work together, I won't go against my words. My head hurts, what should I do? Monster Emperor muttered to himself, and it made Qian Wang really nervous. His heart was beating really quickly. He wanted to struggle free, but Monster Emperor's palm was like a mountain that pressed down on his shoulder. Don't forget about your cooperation with my hall leader. Qian Wang said, I didn't forget. How could I forget? It was just a little tough. All right, I remember. Blood Demon said that if you don't bring him back, then you don't need to come back. I can do that. And not bad, let's do that. Gotcha. Monster Emperor used strength in his fingers and crushed Qian Wang's shoulder. He then lifted him up. Qian Wang cried out and struggled. He didn't expect Monster Emperor to go against his words. Don't go back. Anyway, you won't be able to bring him back. The moment he said this, Monster Emperor swallowed Qian Wang in one mouth, and the bugs in his body split him up. Kikik. Monster Emperor laughed. What a beautiful feeling. He didn't go against the agreement and was able to solve the problem. What a good choice. He patted his stomach and left under the sound of the waves. As for whether or not Blood Demon would be angry, that wasn't his problem. It was a cooperation. If there was success, then naturally there would be failures. P.S. I recommend a book, Tang Dynasty Top Lunatic. If you're interested, you could take a look. Chapter 388. Main Hall. Blood Demon was thinking about life. Monster Emperor definitely wanted to use the Blood King Demon Cauldron to improve something. Was it good for him to lend it to him for him to improve his strength? Forget it. What was the point of thinking so much? Since he had already borrowed it, there was no point in regretting it. As long as he could help him bring that kid back, it was fine. He had such strong cultivation at such a young age. As a human cauldron, he would definitely be amazing. Suddenly, a panicked voice spread in from outside. Hall leader, things are bad. Just as Blood Demon was thinking about all this, a deputy ran over in panic. What happened? Blood Demon was slightly annoyed. As the deputy of Blood Demon faction, what was with him panicking like that? Couldn't he calm down a little? Luckily, there were no outsiders, otherwise if people saw them, they would laugh their heads off. The deputy was panicking. Hall leader, Qian Wang is dead. So what if he is dead? Blood Demon wanted to say that he was dead, but suddenly, he reacted. A blood mist swelled up and he hollered in rage. What happened? How'd he die? The deputy found it hard to reply to that question. How would he know? How would he die? Hall leader, I don't know either. He left with Monster Emperor not long ago, so there is only one possibility. Monster Emperor went against his words and killed Qian Wang. The deputy said he didn't know what was going on recently. Hua Jinhai was dead, and now Qian Wang was dead too. Was their Blood Demon faction really so tragic? Moreover, he could understand why Qian Wang died. He had only left with Monster Emperor for a short period of time. Maybe he hadn't even left Xiedao Sect's territory, but he died just like that. That was just too unrealistic. Monster Emperor, Blood Demon's voice was sharp and furious. He couldn't take such a blow. Monster Emperor was too arrogant. He had only left for a short period of time, and he attacked right away. They said that they were trustworthy, but it was all nonsense. Damn! Unextinguishable rage exploded in Blood Demon's heart. It burned brighter and brighter. He really wanted Monster Emperor to die right away. At that moment, Blood Demon turned into a streak of light and disappeared from the hall. He chased after Monster Emperor. No matter what, he wanted Monster Emperor to give him an explanation. Unfortunately, Monster Emperor had fled long ago. To Monster Emperor, if he didn't run after swallowing someone, then wasn't he sick in the head? The other factions of Xiedao sect sensed the rage of Blood Demon and were really confused. What happened? Of course, to them, none of this mattered. The wrath of the Blood Devil had nothing to do with them. In any case, there were no major conflicts between the factions, but there were still small ones. In the forest, Lin Fan and the others rested for a short while. Mu Gang was really well behaved as she massaged Lin Fan's legs. This was how the evil old master exploited beautiful girls, making such a pair of beautiful hands do such rough work. Senior, this is a freshly made sweet potato. Please take a look and see if it suits your taste. Zhen Xiaobao brought the sweet potato in front of Lin Fan and tried to please him, hoping that he could help him. The grade of the sweet potato is a little low. It's hard to eat. You should give it to your master. Lin Fan said. Now that the life of a rich family young master was over, he couldn't forget the habit of rinsing his mouth with shark fins. He ate fish and meat every day. So how could he accept eating sweet potatoes? Zhen Xiaobao nodded and ran to his master. Master, this is a freshly roasted sweet potato. Try it. Cha Fu squinted his eyes, and the way he looked at Zhen Xiaobao changed. Disciple, am I blind? Am I deaf? No, isn't master fine? Zhen Xiaobao said. Kiki. Cha Fu's laughter was a little off. Su Furong panicked, but Zhen Xiaobao didn't sense anything. Maybe his intelligence wasn't high, which was why he couldn't understand such emotions. Master, eat it while it's hot. It is delicious. Zhen Xiaobao passed the sweet potato to Cha Fu. Cha Fu had no choice. Forget it. What else could he say to this dumb disciple? At this moment, Zhu Shun was refining the Dao pattern pill. The piglet's eyes made Zhu Shun look harmless, but only he and Zhu Shun could fight. As for Cha Fu, he was a little weaker. Domain Realm didn't seem bad. But actually, he was just like an ant in the eyes of Dao Realm and couldn't be of much help. Truthfully, if Hua Jinhai hadn't massacred an entire city, he wouldn't have thought about killing him. But Hua Jinhai was too vicious and the heavens couldn't tolerate him, so he could only kill him. Young master, do you feel comfortable? Mu Gang asked softly. She had already adjusted her mindset. Since she became someone's maid, then she should just be a maid. Although the title of made wasn't a good one. She had no choice. She had to continue down the path that she chose. Actually, Mu Gang didn't know how lucky her choice was. Nine Demon became a pillow that was pressed down by Lin Fan. Your techniques have improved, but you still need to work hard. When there is a chance, I will let you learn from Gozi. Gozi? Mu Gang was stunned and didn't understand what young master was saying. She was a little lost. Who was this person? Lin Fan said, Gozi takes care of my daily life and is really outstanding in all aspects. His massage techniques are really good. If we have to compare, the gap between you and him is really huge. You aren't even on the same level. His words were a little hurtful, especially since Mu Gang was such a beautiful woman. She was really competitive. I will work hard. Mu Gang remembered Gozi. At that moment, Jin Xiaobao squatted beside Lin Fan. He respected Senior. He was so strong at such a young age. If he hadn't personally witnessed it, he wouldn't have dared to believe it. Lin Fan tilted his head and smiled. You are not bad. I have high hopes for you, but you still need to work hard. Maybe one day, you will become an expert. Senior, are you talking to me? Zhen Xiaobao asked in surprise. Lin Fan nodded. I'm talking to you. In Lin Fan's eyes, Zhen Xiaobao's faith in him was really weak. But this was a good start. Although he could rely on faith to raise Zhen Xiaobao's cultivation, but he had to slow it down. There was no rush. People wouldn't cherish things that were easy to get. Of course, raising Mu Gang's strength was just to set an example for them and to let them see some hope. At that moment, Zhen Xiaobao's heart pounded when he heard Lin Fan's words. He felt like he had hope. Don't worry, Senior. I will work hard. To Zhen Xiaobao, he envied Mu Gang. Although the faith that Senior mentioned was confusing, he knew that as long as he believed in Senior, he would become stronger. With his cultivation talent, it was basically impossible for him to rely on his own cultivation to become stronger, so this was his only way out. Su Furong looked at his junior brother and didn't know what to say. Cha Fu had a feeling. If it continues like this, he was thinking about whether or not his disciple would be tricked away by Lin Fan. Very quickly, Zhu Shun woke up from his cultivation. He needed to do something to consume the Dao pattern pill, so there was no rush. Young Master Lin, let's continue on our way. Hua Jinhai's death made him more wary. Shidao Sect's blood demon faction definitely wouldn't let them off. No matter what, Hua Jinhai was the deputy head of blood demon faction and had a high status. Now that he was killed by them, they definitely wouldn't let them off. Let's go, Lin Fan replied. It was still okay for them to travel aimlessly. Their luck was good, and they would often meet people who liked to cause trouble. Without them, life would be really lonely. Also, this darkness god domain's growth was a little slow. This bit of faith wasn't enough at all, but he didn't care about the god domain at all. The main thing was that the darkness chief god's methods were interesting. The people around him were too weak, and it was really boring. Now that he could use cheats to make the people around him stronger, why not? A few days later, in the distance, a bunch of commoners walked over. They were in groups, and they looked really tired like they came from far away. When the commoners saw Lin Fan and the others, they were a little nervous. What's going on with them? Lin Fan knew that after the imperial dynasty was wiped out, the world was in chaos. But as long as the cities weren't occupied by the Alliance, they should be fine. As for Biting City, it was rare. It was impossible for everyone to be like that. I'm not sure, but looking at their expressions, they seem wary of us. If the top sects occupy the cities, they won't attack the commoners. If they really attack, then the commoners definitely won't be able to escape. Zhu Xin said. Lin Fan walked in front of an old man. Old man, where did you come from and where are you going? The people around the old man were really nervous, but seeing that Lin Fan's attitude was decent, they heaved a sigh of relief. Young master, we came from Jilu City and are prepared to find a place to hide. This world is just too chaotic, and it is so chaotic that people can't live on. The old man said helplessly. Lin Fan frowned. Based on what I know, the various cities should be under the control of the top sections. There shouldn't be many changes to the commoners, right? The old man said, it would be great if that was the case, but that isn't the case. Young master, Let's not talk about anything else. I have to chase up to them. The old man looked at the group, getting further and further away, and became anxious. He didn't say much to Lin Fan. He looked old, but when he ran, he wasn't slow at all. Lin Fan didn't stop him. He was thinking to himself that this was different from what he had expected. To him, if the top sects wanted to occupy land, then they had to treat the commoners as the main priority. Otherwise, what would they eat and use? But now, they actually forced so many commoners to leave their homes. That was really weird. Zhu Shun said, "Young Master Lin, I think it is best if we avoid Jilu City." Avoid what? Let's take a look at the situation. Lin Fan was really curious about this matter. Damn, Zhu Shun was helpless, and it was obvious that he had predicted this outcome. Chapter 389. Jilu City. Young Master Lin, don't you think that we are too eye-catching if we enter like this? Chafu said, forget about Piglet. Other people would at most treat it as a pet. As for Nine Demon, it was a little eye-catching. Lin Fan said, there's no need to be nervous. What is so eye-catching about it? Chafu had nothing to say. Zhu Shan was used to young Master Lin's actions, but he realized that Jilu City security was a little high. He didn't know which top sect controlled it. Let's enter the city, Lin Fan said. The bunch of them walked towards the city gate. There were 2 disciples guarding the gate, but they didn't check the people who entered. It was like they were just decorations. Lin Fan and the others easily entered the city. The commoners were all doing their own things. Some were selling and some were chatting. They didn't see any problems. Let's head to the tea house to take a look, Lin Fan said. They found a tea house and there were many people inside. They found a place to sit down. Lin Fan listened attentively and listened to what the people around were saying. As expected, the people in the tea house were talking about what happened recently. Jilu City belonged to Great Sun Dynasty. But what was Great Sun Dynasty? He was stunned, but thinking about it, he understood. When a top sect occupied a city, they would definitely support a puppet to form a dynasty. With the sect as the leader, controlling the dynasty was the best way. Very quickly, he obtained the answer he wanted. Those commoners were chased out. Great Sun Dynasty chose Jilu City as their capital, so naturally, they needed to occupy some land to build an imperial city. This was why those commoners were in a tragic state. Their land was occupied, and they didn't receive any compensation. They either had to find a new place to build their houses or scram out of Jilu City. The customers around didn't dare to say much, as they were probably afraid of someone. Each time they got to the main point, they would shush and shut their mouths. Kiki, these bastards are really infuriating, Lin Fan said. Zhu Shan said, there is nothing we can do about it. The world is really unfriendly to the commoners, but to some sects, it is their chance. Once the dynasty is built, after a few decades, they will be recognized by the next generation. It will be impossible for them to return to the past. Even if the imperial dynasty subdues these cities, to the younger generation, they will think of themselves as slaves of a conquered country. They will only have one thought in their hearts, and that is to restore the dynasty. Lin Fan understood what Zhu Shan meant. Moreover, this was also the thinking of the top sections. Perhaps they would encounter a lot of trouble now, but to the sects, these were all bearable. What they wanted was the future, not the present. At this moment, the street was a little lively. Lin Fan looked over in confusion. A row of prison wagons passed by on the street. There were many people imprisoned in the wagons. Some were old, some were young. Sigh, these people are unlucky. That's right. They say that they are remnants of the imperial dynasty, but they are actually used to make an example out of them. Shoo, lower your voice. Nowadays, they don't need evidence when they arrest people. As long as they hear what you say, you will be stabbed. Lin Fan looked on expressionlessly. This was the first time he had seen something like this, but he was definitely not unfamiliar with it. Since the imperial dynasty was wiped out, naturally, people loyal to the imperial dynasty jumped out. Even if they faced a bad environment, they wouldn't lower their heads to others. Young Master Lin, don't be rash. It is hard to say whether or not there are experts in Jilu City, Zhu Shun said softly. He was really afraid that young Master Lin would be rash and cause some problems. Zhu Shun, I will give you a chance to perform. Do you want to do so? Lin Fan said. Zhu Shun didn't even consider and shook his head. No. Don't reject me so quickly. Lin Fan was helpless. Did Zhu Shun see through his thoughts? That really made him feel helpless. Young Master Lin, don't be rash. If we face someone at Dao Realm Stage 4-4, we might be able to escape. But if we face someone at Stage 6, then we will all die here. Zhu Shun was really serious, and he wasn't joking. Is there a lot of people at Stage 6? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shun said, not a lot, but just in case. What if we are unlucky and bump into one? Lin Fan smiled. Don't worry, my idea is really good. You just have to act arrogantly in the sky and see whether or not there are experts in Jilu City. If there are, then run right away and I will save these people. What do you think? No. Zhu Shun shook his head right away. What a joke. He wouldn't believe such nonsense. Lin Fan knew that Zhu Shun wouldn't agree, so he didn't care much about Jilu City. Immediately, he opened up his domain and covered everyone around him in an instant. Fall! Lin Fan released his aura. It was really weak, and in an instant everyone around fainted. When the people locked up in the carriages saw the situation around, their mouths were agape. What was going on? Why did the people who were fine just now all fall down in the blink of an eye? Young Master Lin, you were just messing around, Zhu Shun said. He was terrified and didn't expect young Master Lin to be so bold. He didn't hold anyone in any regard at all. Lin Fan said, what am I messing around about? If I don't try, how will I know whether or not I will succeed? He flicked his fingers and the carriages all shattered. The people inside looked at Lin Fan and cupped their fists. Thank you, young master, for saving us. Let's go. Lin Fan waved his hands and told them to leave. He then looked at Zhu Shun. Look, there are no experts. If there were, then things wouldn't be like this. Zhu Shun had nothing to say. There really weren't any experts, but they were just too bold. With their current situation, they couldn't be too arrogant or they would be targeted. The Alliance wanted to kill them, and so did Xiaodao's sect. If they continued to cause trouble like this, more people would want to kill them. He retracted his domain. Everything calmed down. The people who came out of the carriages ran towards the city gate. They remembered Lin Fan's life-saving grace, but the situation wasn't right, so they could only run. Naturally, they would repay him in the future. Young Master Lin, it is best if we leave too, Zhu Shun said. Lin Fan said, don't rush. Since we're already here, let's just take a look. Zhu Shun was helpless. He knew that what he said was the same as not saying anything at all. Young Master Lin wouldn't listen to him at all. He wanted to find Master Lin and hand him over to him. Lin Fan needed rage points, so naturally, he couldn't give up on this place. Very quickly, loud noises spread out and a large number of people charged over. The commotion here had attracted their attention. The leader was an old man. He was in charge of this place. Jilu City would become the capital of Great Sun Dynasty. This was decided long ago, and he was in charge of supervising this place. He was in charge of building the palace. The sect cared a lot about the establishment of Great Sun Dynasty. But to the sect, this was just a small matter. At the same time, the choice of the first emperor of Great Sun Dynasty caused a huge commotion within the sect. Many people had such thoughts. But the sect's initial plan was to find a prince of the imperial dynasty and make him a puppet. At the same time, they could spread the news that they were the orthodox sect. But regretfully, the prince of the imperial dynasty had disappeared without a trace, and no one knew where he went. This was why the sect fought for this position. Even if he was controlled by the sect, he was still the emperor. At that moment, when he saw those scenes, his expression changed. He sensed the power of the domain and knew that an expert had attacked. But who was so bold to actually behave so arrogantly here? Who is it? Come out. The old man hollered in rage. He looked around but couldn't find the target. Did he run after the mission succeeded? Lin Fan, who was at the top of the tea house, said here. The old man looked over and saw a guy waving his hands towards him. He was really casual, like he didn't fear anything at all. This made the old man furious. Was he so arrogant? Zhu Shun heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, He didn't face an expert, otherwise, he would have been terrified to death. Chafu's heart couldn't take it. He was just too impulsive. He felt that young Master Lin didn't consider the situation and just charged forwards. "Who are you?" The old man raged. The disciples behind him stared at Lin Fan in rage. This kid dared to cause trouble here and didn't care about their Golden Spirit Valley at all. Lin Fan said leisurely, "Old man, only weaklings like you came? Where are the experts?" His words were really unpleasant. He didn't even say anything and just called them weaklings. That was really too much. Rage points plus 999. Rage points plus 333. Rage points increased. "Who are you?" "This is a city controlled by Golden Spirit Valley. Do you want to be enemies with them?" The old man hollered in rage. "Trash." Lin Fan replied calmly, like he had no energy left in him. The old man took in a deep breath like he was about to explode at any moment. He really couldn't take it anymore. Couldn't this kid speak properly? He just didn't answer the question. Zhu Xin really wanted to smash his head against the pillar. "Master Lin, the mission that you gave me was really stressful." Not only did the people from Golden Spirit Valley not understand what young Master Lin was doing, but even he didn't understand. Rage points increased. Lin Fan was really satisfied with such gains. To others, Lin Fan had no reason to offend them. But only Lin Fan knew that if he didn't do that, his rage points wouldn't increase. Lin Fan said, "Don't look at me like that. I was the one who let the people here die and the one who fainted. I'm going to leave now. If you want to stop me, then go ahead. But all of you are too weak, so you probably won't be able to. Let's go." Lin Fan got up and walked to the door. He then walked out of the city. He wasn't quick, and one could say that he was really slow. He would leave right under their noses and see if they would stop him or not. Based on his thoughts, they would definitely stop him. The other party would probably stop him. After all, this was a matter of face. Chafu blinked and felt that it was a little arrogant. If it was him, even if he knew that he couldn't beat him, he would definitely stop him. But looking at the situation, there seemed to be a problem. Was his life more important than his face? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.